Testing, testing. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing? You guys hear me okay? Yeah? What is going on? What is going on? Alright. Alright, alright, alright. Alright, alright, alright. Oh my god, we got a lot of supers. Hold on. We gotta catch some supers. Hold on. How's everybody doing? How's everybody Who's quick movie making? What do you do? Who are you? Why are you spamming so much? What's going on? What are you even talking about? Luffy reds or oh, colors. Okay, okay. We got some supers to catch up on. Banhort says 15 points less. I would love 15 points less. Yeah. Can we make that happen? Yeah, I'm early because we got a lot to talk about. I guess. We got a lot to talk about. I got some supers to catch up on here. We got a fucking amazing chapter. Let's get the stream links up to 50 real quick. Was I on point or late? I'm fucking early. You skipped that option. I'm early. 4 days worth of late points? No. Okay, so Monday. First of all, let me catch you guys up on some things. As people trickle in. All right. First of all, I would like to apologize. So I mentioned this earlier. Monday there was no stream. Because I was taking a little mini vacation. First time I've done a vacation since I think a year ago. I did a vacation. So this is the first vacation in a long time. So yeah, first vacation in a long time, much needed. Got back on Wednesday. So missed Monday's stream. I promised I would do. So two things I need to apologize for. One, I promised I would do a makeup stream for Monday's stream. Once I got back on Wednesday, so fucking tired from travel and everything, I could not do that. And at that point, if I did a stream like Thursday, there was no time to actually do that because at that point spoilers and everything were out. I can't really do a stream unless I'm covering the spoilers, so just have to wait for chapter stream. Okay, so maybe we do another additional stream one day. What's going on? Camera froze? Oh shit. Oh my god. Why does this keep happening? Here, let me do this. Hold on. Should be good? Yeah. Oh wait, let me check. I know how to change the resolution properly now. Hold on. Here we go. Something to do with yeah, the thing is this. I think I did it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, pretty good at that now, huh? Okay, so, yeah, so missed Monday stream, no makeup stream this week. Maybe we'll do an additional stream or something. The Kuma stream, when we cover the Kuma flashback, that'll be an extended stream. So maybe we count that. It'll be 2 streams in 1. I don't know. But yeah, so apologies about that. Then on top of that, the what is it? Something. What is it? Hold on. Oh yeah, I want to apologize for this week's video. So this week's video was not a good video. Part of it was because I was taking the week off, so I was going on vacation, but still trying to get a video out to maintain consistency. But this week's video just became a botched video. So the video was originally it went through so many iterations. So the video was originally about how Emu, the deal that Harold made with Emu. So the video is about that, and then how Emu Dami reversied Harold, and then that forced Loki to kill him. That was what the video originally was. Then on Tuesday morning, I'm on vacation, and then I'm checking the spoilers, and it says something about how the guards actually killed Harold. So then it's like, okay, fuck, so it's not the Dami reversey situation. So I was like, does that make the video incorrect? So I didn't want the video to come out right then and be totally wrong. So I was calling my editor. We're like, okay, we have to scrap parts of the video. So we scrapped a bunch of parts of the video. And then the actual scan, and the video that finally came out was just a weak video. It just didn't have that much substance. And then the fucked up part is the chapter comes out and now we get the images and it looks like Harold was fucking Dami reversied. And so we could have just fucking kept the video the same as it originally was, which is like Loki killed Harold because Harold got Dami reversied or whatever. It was very hard. We couldn't do any sort of like recalibration for the video because I was not home. Like I didn't have I was out of the country. I didn't have any sort of way of recording anything. So all I could do was ask my editor to cut certain parts. So I think the final, I don't want to look at what the final product of the video looks like or whatever. Again, I didn't check comments or anything like that. Lots of times I don't check comments for videos, but sometimes I do. This one I was just afraid to look at. I feel like that video is really bad. So as a sort of makeup, instead of the standard chapter review, the video that's coming out tomorrow is going to be a little bit more polished. So it's a more focused video, and it's talking actually specifically about Shanks. And then next Tuesday's video is a pretty substantive video. It's about Zoro and Sanji. So hopefully that kind of makes up for it. All right, everybody. Should have kept the video as is. Yeah. Should have just kept the video. MOH says Harold not confirmed Dami Reversi. Yeah, not confirmed Dami Reversi, but it looked like it was still possible, and that's all that really mattered. Like, it's a theory video, but the theory video doesn't work if, like, literally as soon as the chapter's out, the theory is killed. This still means that the theory is still viable. And, hey, Harley, Casey, no. And I'm not the first person to say Harold was Dami Reversi. People in streams have been asking for the last several chapters, like, oh, you think Harold got Dami Reversi and stuff like that? And I do believe that's a possibility. I do believe that's the case. I do think everything that I said in the video still holds up, actually. I think a lot of it is true. That Imu made a deal with Harold or whatever, but that Harold was secretly good and was betraying Imu in some way. Imu got mad. Imu Dami reversied him. I believe that's all true. I think it's just the video got slashed so much that it just doesn't sound very substantive anymore. And the entire marketing, like the thumbnail we had to change, but now we just changed the thumbnail back to what it originally was going to be, but we had to make a shitty on-the-fly thumbnail and like change the intro and just made it a much less interesting video. So I want to apologize about that. Okay, anyway, continuing on. Let me catch these supers real quick. Also, let's get stream likes up to 100. CB Maddie, thanks for the 10. I don't blame Hadruden for being stubborn. Loki keeps bitching that he isn't believed, yet he waits until now to tell his brother the truth. Oh, I'll tell you if you get on your knees. Just tell him. Yeah, that's one of my least favorite sort of like methods of conflict in fiction, like creating conflict, is just like characters being very angry or like being reactive towards other characters when the other character is just like not what, like when all that's needed is just some explanation, right? Like just explaining what happened. That's it. And lots of times it's like the reverse situation where it's like a character makes assumptions about a situation. It's like, oh my, like a classic one, like character walks into their partner and some other member of the opposite sex, and it's like, oh my god, you're cheating on me, and then storm out. It's like, no, you just wait for the explanation or something, right? In this situation, it's the reverse, where it's like, it's almost like the Giants are willing to listen to Loki, but Loki doesn't want to fucking tell them jack shit. I don't know. That's a little annoying. CB Maddie, thanks for the 10. He wouldn't have believed me. Yeah, because you beat him up because he wasn't born as strong as you, and you said his mother had dirty blood. I mean, there was nothing wrong with that. I'm supposed to be hyped for this guy's potential Nakama? Come on now. Hadruden deserves... Time out. Hadruden wants to be the king of Elbaf, and I think, like, the first thing that happened is, like, he gets one shot by, like, Gear 2 Luffy back in the Coliseum, and then he, like, he goes extreme diff, literally extreme diff, has all of the bones of his body broken, fighting against Makvis. Makvis is, like, the 10th strongest Doflamingo pirate or some shit. And then he struggled fighting a moose. He needed like help carrying a moose, right? So I don't know. I feel like Loki was doing his job, just upholding the sanctity of Elbaf, right? Like Elbaf had a fucking reputation. Like you saw what Harold was like 100-something years ago, you know? Like you saw how they feared the giant warrior pirates and everything like that. And then Hadruden is out here calling himself the leader of the new giant warrior pirates or something. It's just disgraceful. Like, I'd be pissed if, like, I don't know, like, new. I don't know. Just it's just he's just. I think a Druden should just like bow out of this whole King of the Giants sort of situation, right? Like he's clearly not fit to do that. Loki's out here protecting Elbaf from riffraff trying to take over. But I will say I don't want Loki to become a crewmate. I think that screws things up. It's kind of like it's almost like another Yamato situation, but even more extreme this time. Like Yamato, I didn't want becoming a crewmate for a million reasons, such as her being a terrible character. Loki seems like actually a good character, but Yamato was also very, very strong. If she was put in the crew at that point in time, it would have been very debatable. I think it's completely debatable between her and Zoro. I think there's a perfectly strong argument that she would even be above Zoro post Wano. Perfectly reasonable argument. I have Zoro above Yamato, but like anytime I do rankings, I think I do Zoro just like one spot above Yamato. And I don't know. I also have unconscious bias, I assume, because I dislike Yamato. So maybe if I viewed it through objective eyes, maybe I'd have Yamato above Zoro. But I think like it's very debatable or whatever, right? With Loki, I imagine it would be the same thing, except in this situation, I feel like Loki's probably stronger than Zoro and Sanji are right now. At least that's the way that it's been built up. Like, if you go back to, like, Skopper Gaban talking about Loki, it really fucking... Like, look at the way Skopper Gaban talks about Loki versus the way Skopper Gaban addresses Zoro. It's, like, it does not seem like Loki is going to be below Zoro. I imagine end of story Zoro, yeah, but if Loki's added to the crew, then you would assume that Loki gets to keep improving, too. And I think there's no shot that Sanji's stronger than Loki. I think it would just fuck with too much. But I think that Loki is going to be a very interesting character. I don't think he's going to join the crew at the end of the day. Yeah, continuing on. CB Maddie, thanks for the 5. Oh, it's hard for me to relive that day. Boo-hoo. He thinks his brother murdered his father in cold blood. Stop being a bitch and tell him the truth. Yeah, I do agree that this is all very frustrating behavior from Loki, because it's just like... It's just causing so much trouble for no reason and causing such a misunderstanding for no reason, and he's fucking himself over. I think we need to see maybe what the Giants' reaction to all that was after it actually happened in the first place, because it's like maybe Loki on that day did try to tell them, but they refused to listen, and then that made Loki so salty that they tied him up for 6 years. And I think like if you get, or however many years, right? 6 years? I think if like some people tie you up, if he tried to explain it once and they didn't listen, and then they tied him up for 6 years, and now they need his help or whatever, I think now I could understand being so salty that and pissy about it that it's like, well, now I'm just not even going to tell you because fuck you didn't believe me in the first place. But if it's revealed that Loki didn't even try to clear his name in the first place, then it's just an annoying character trait to have or whatever. Also, just the fact that, like, Gaban even knew that something was up from the beginning, but never spoke up. He's like, wait a second, there was some mysterious Haki going around at that point in time. Maybe I believe, like, maybe there's something to this. I just thought that the whole situation would have been, like, really painting Loki in a, like, just... Something would have happened that just frames Loki in such a impossibly bad light that there's no way for him to get out of it. But now it seems like it's possible that Loki just never even bothered telling other people what happened. 1, and 2, Gaban fucking could tell something was up in the first place, but he just fucking chose to chill and do nothing initially, which would be really annoying. So let's see how things go. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. But CB Maddie, I feel you. I agree. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. Hear me out, all. Loki's pure Zoan / God form is human-sized, and he joins the crew. Also, Oda will give Loki derp eyes when they're revealed. Derp eyes would be funny. I'll give you a flip side. So this is actually something that it's in the chapter video that comes out tomorrow. Although really tomorrow's video is a bit more in depth than a normal chapter video. But the voice of the people, one of the patrons, let's see, which patron said this? The voice of the people for the week was a really good point, which is that you all know that I believe that Frankie is going to be upgrading Pluton very soon, right? You guys know that? I believe that Frankie's going to be upgrading Pluton. So Harmony... one of my patrons pointed out that, well, if Frankie upgrades the Thousand Sunny into Pluton, we're going to have a much bigger ship, most likely, after this arc, possibly just in time to fit in Loki. So that's an interesting point. I still don't think Loki will be a crew member, but, yeah, what's people's feeling? Is Loki going to be a crewmate at the end of the day? I just don't see it. Will Loki join the crew? I mean, his fucking introduction is literally identical to Zoro's. I think it'd be really bizarre if Loki also joined. Kind of takes away some of the unique qualities, I think. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. The Joe says Loki joins the fleet. So my thoughts on the fleet. The fleet is tricky because I feel like the trend so far for the fleet to me is that the fleet is supposed to be like it's a pyramid type thing. I feel like the fleet is generally supposed to be weaker than the actual Straw Hat crew by a long shot. I feel like that's why we haven't had actually strong characters ever join the fleet, because you hear this so often all the time. It's like any new ally that the Straw Hats kind of make, right? It's like, well, are they going to join the fleet, right? Like, I heard people saying, what if Katakuri joins the fleet? Hancock joins the fleet. Like, oh, Marco helped them out. Why doesn't Marco join the fleet? Okay, Yamato. Yamato's not joining right away. Well, why doesn't Yamato join the fleet? Now we got Loki joining the fleet. Like, if you look at the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, I don't think the Grand Fleet is... I think there's supposed to be distinctions, right? So I think the Grand Fleet is really supposed to be a subordinate group to the Straw Hats. Subordinate group like below the Straw Hats in a sense, right? Then beyond that, the Straw Hats have nations. So nations that are allied to them, nations that fly their flag, Fishman Island, Wano, Zoe, things like that. So they've got officially allied nations, and then the Straw Hats have independent allies, and those are people that they can kind of call upon, but they're to come fight with them, but they're not subordinate to them, right? The fleet is willingly subordinate to the Straw Hats, but like if Luffy called upon like Marco again, he makes sense as an ally. Like if he called upon like Law again, right? He makes sense as an ally. Loki is too powerful. Like, if Loki's not going to be a member of the Straw Hat Pirates themselves, I can't imagine Loki wanting to be a member of, like, the Grand Fleet, which is the subordinates to the Straw Hat, to the Straw Hat crew, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's literally fathers and sons cups that are drank in the first place. So, I feel like if you just look at the Straw Hat Grand Fleet roster across the board, it feels pretty deliberate that Oda's not actually trying to put any powerhouses in there. Like, Law wouldn't make sense in the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Like, Marco wouldn't make sense. Like, no, the Grand Fleet is more guys like Sai and Ideo and Bartolomeo. Like, characters that are clearly below the Straw Hats themselves, you know? If you just look at Dressrosa in general, like, the Straw Hats, like, Zoro obviously way above the fleet, but Frankie, Robin zero diffs fucking Cavendish. Like, Robin zero diffs fucking the strongest member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, right? Like, let's not forget how strong the Straw Hats themselves are. So, like, if that's the best that the Straw Hat Grand Fleet has, I just feel like Loki would be wildly out of place there, and it just makes no sense, because once you're signing up to be part of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, you are making yourself subordinate to the Straw Hat crew in general, you know? I think Loki makes sense as a long-term ally. All right, continuing on. Nervain V-Maker, thanks for the 5. What do you think Aban told Sanji? I think Sanji might have conquerors, but I don't think Aban confirmed it for him. Watch out for next Tuesday's video. I think it's a very, very complicated discussion. I think the Sanji conquers Haki thing is a very complicated discussion, and it's just going to be a very touchy discussion. I think it's going to be a very touchy discussion. Yeah, not even Cavendish. Hakuba, like the strongest form possible. Robin zero diff Cavendish, Hakuba, you know? Like there's honestly a big gap between I think comparing Brook to Hakuba is almost impossible because Brook has no feats or fights just yet, but like outside of like, yeah, Brook is hard to compare, but in general, I think the majority of the Straw Hat crew is stronger than the Grand Fleet by a good margin. Yeah, I think it's very hard for the Sanji discussion to be anything that's like objective, because it's just, you know what, like it's just so important to the Sanji fan base that he gets it. I think it's very possible either way. I genuinely do. But I don't know if it's like I really don't fucking know. I think it's possible. I don't think that this chapter guaranteed it one way or another. It's so funny because you can have the exact same chapter and exact same sequence of events and exact same statements, etc. And then one fan base is going to view it as like, oh my god, obviously Sanji doesn't have Conqueror's Haki based on the events of this chapter. And then the other fan base is saying, oh my god, obviously this means that Sanji is going to be confirmed to have Conqueror's Haki down the line. So it's a touchy subject. I'll just throw it to you guys. Will Sanji have Conqueror's Haki? I will say this. I think Luffy inviting Loki to join his crew this early is a very bad sign for Loki. Usually it's at the end of a complicated storyline, like at the end of a full storyline, that Luffy actually wants someone to join his crew, because that's kind of the point. Like, you want to have a narrative play out that brings the characters together and creates that sort of storyline. And then by the end of it, it's like, okay, wow, we've gone through so much with this character. Now Luffy's extending the invite. So Luffy, it's at the end of a storyline that Luffy invites him. The exception is Brook, but Brook is kind of like the exception that proves the rule, because the whole point, if you go back to Thriller Bark, was that Brook was initially like this sort of gag character, and initially it was just this big joke that Luffy's inviting this random talking pervy skeleton onto the crew, and it's like, that's obviously not going to happen because this character's not that deep or whatever. But then we go through the arc, and then we get like this whole storyline with Brook, and we learn so much more about him, and at the end, like, we're all like, holy shit, Brook is so deep, this is so moving, etc. There's so much more to this character. This is a phenomenal character. And then Brook extends the invitation again, and this time it's actually for real. So that was Oda kind of playing with expectations a little bit, because it was like, this is just a joke. Obviously, this guy's not going to join, because Luffy then also goes on to invite that, like, talking tree and the unicorn. So it's kind of like Luffy's just throwing out these invites, and it's just a running gag over Thriller Bark. But then at the end of the story, it becomes real, right? But then for all the other Straughts, it's like, there's a story. Like, there's a story, and at the end of that story, that's when Luffy's like, I'm going to invite you to the crew. The fact that Luffy's, like, giving Loki a genuine invite right off the bat, before Loki's even, like, left his sea stone cuffs or whatever, to me that suggests that there's going to be things that happen over the course of this narrative that it's like the reverse, right? Like, there's things that are going to happen over the course of the narrative that end up with Loki not actually joining the crew, if that makes sense. Continuing on. Let's get stream likes up to 150 real quick. Let me try and move it a little bit faster. Oh my god. Okay, so more people are leaning towards Sanji having Conqueror's Haki. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's interesting. It's very, very possible. It's very possible. I'm curious what Gabon told him. I would also like to see some Viz translations too. So let's see. Behenor, thanks a lot. Elbaf, once the biggest fear of the One Piece world's peaceful civilians, is now being conquered by their own fears now that they're mostly civilians. Yeah, that's funny. That's irony. That's a great point. I love that, Behenor. Great thing to point out. Jack Hatzimemos, thanks for the 10. Interesting that Loki's eyes are covered before the incident with Herald. I wonder if he has eye powers naturally, maybe a third party, or they're connected to his devil fruit. I dropped a whole video on this. Go check this out. It's called, like, Visions of the Future. Like, it's my video from 2 weeks ago. Not this week, last week. Sorry, 1 week ago. It's basically, I'm saying that I think Loki is a very powerful future sight. Very powerful future sight, and he had to cover his eyes due to that. Just check that out, because he had those bandages actually even as a child. Monkey D Sky, thanks for the 5. Cracking a beer and Zine from my first apartment in Philly. Get to live closer to the team that disappoints me. Cheers to a great chapter. What, the Sixers? Oh man, that'd be. I saw it was commented on that, like, the best thing that could have happened to the Sixers this year was the fucking Eagles winning the Super Bowl, because it covers up how bad the fucking Sixers are. It gives Philly something else to focus on. Behero, thanks a lot. How long do you think the Herald flashback will be? So this one, I feel like this one could be a slightly there's two options, right? Because either we're getting this situation in pieces, as in Harold's story and then Loki's story at some point, or it's gonna be in one flow, right? I think you know, the Riku, Kyros, Rebecca style of storytelling for the Dressrosa backstories, right? So either we get it all in one go or we get it broken up. My feeling is I feel like we're gonna get the full story right here because it's kind of like it's trying to get at the truth of the matter. Because I feel like we're trying to get at the truth of it. So I'm actually very excited. I would love for Harold's backstory to take place over. And you know what's great is that it seems like this is the pause before we get to the big fight. But that's perfect because sometimes when like a backstory kicks off, it can feel like, oh, maybe this is gonna be like a backstory that really slows things down or whatever. But I feel like this is gonna be a very exciting backstory. So, because we're getting to see so much lore, right? So, if anything, like, I'm almost more excited for the backstory right now than us getting back to the big fight. Almost. I feel like Harold's backstory could be... I think Harold's going to go through a bit of a character arc. I think we're going to learn about Loki, right? And Loki's past and what makes him tick. And then I think we're going to get the big incident. I feel like... And then, let's say there's some stuff... I feel like, at minimum, this backstory will be... 4 chapters, unless it's just covering Harold stuff. If it's not covering Loki stuff, then maybe it's just like 3 chapters, right? Let's say minimum 4 chapters. I don't know how much further Oda would go than that, though. Jack had some memos. Thanks for the 10. Also, what do you think of this potential retcon that Shanks lost his arm to lose the Abyss tattoo that we see him with? I think it's a clever way for Oda to explain him losing the arm all these years later. So people have been bringing that up even as of last stream. Like, what if Shanks lost the arm to get rid of the tattoo? That makes just no fucking sense because, like, if Oda tries to give that reason, it's a really fucking stupid reason because if Shanks wanted to get rid of the tattoo, if he just wanted to he could have just cut his arm off. You don't need it. There's no rule that says the only way to lose an arm is if you lose it to a sea king while saving a drowning child. He could have just cut. If he was always like, man, I really need to get rid of this arm so I can get rid of this tattoo, or not the tattoo mark, he could have just done it. He could have just asked, and if, let's say hypothetically, there's some rule that like, well, you're not allowed, you can't do it to yourself, right? He could have just had Ben Beckman do it. We know Ben Beckman likes taking arms. Look at Kid's arm. He's done it before, right? I just don't know what would be the specific sequence of, like, what would be the rules that mandate that the only way Shanks would be allowed to lose his arm is if he, like, well, I don't know, what even would it be? If you could only use your arm if, like, you accidentally lose it in the process of saving someone else or something like that? I don't know. If anything, to me, that would... If it's revealed that the losing the arm to the Sea King thing was some sort of a ploy by Shanks to do all that, to get rid of, like, I guess the simplest way I could say it is that, like, it's not cool if that's what it's revealed to be, because one, it's stupid. We also know it's like Oda just coming up with shit after the fact, but more importantly, it ruins the beauty of the moment, right? The beauty of the moment is that Shanks is actually he's giving up an arm to save this kid, right? Who he views as a son. He's giving up that's how much Shanks loves Luffy. That's good storytelling, right? Oda's editor told Oda to make the first chapter more dramatic, and Oda came up with a way to make it hit that much harder and to really communicate, like that is one of the most powerful moments of sacrifice in One Piece, right? And it's something that communicates right off the bat so many of the themes of the story and establishes the type of man that Shanks is and why Luffy looks up to him and loves him so much, right? Like, and then it also connects to so many other things, like why like Luffy and Sanji connecting when Luffy hears Sanji's story about Zeph giving up his leg and everything like that. It's because they love them, right? If instead it was like Shanks being like, I'm doing like 4D chess because this is the perfect opportunity to lose my shitty Abyss tattoo arm from Emu and get away from the God's Knights or something. It just fucking, it's like, why this isn't better writing. This isn't better writing. If anything, this fucking ruins a really beautiful moment by adding additional layers of like scheming or something like that to it, as opposed to what's just genuinely a pure, kind-hearted moment and an actual sacrifice from Shanks, right? if this isn't a sacrifice for Shanks and instead it's like a convenient way for him to like ditch the abyss mark or something, then it's just like, okay, so we ruined like one of the best Shanks moments and one of the most important moments in the story just to make plot points like connect a little more, like plot points that Oda thought up way later in the fucking story connect a little bit more seamlessly to the first chapter. Fucking stupid. I don't know why people are being like Goda over that. I'm like, that's not the original scene was the good writing. The original scene had good dramatic character writing. Not everything is better just because it connects to Emu and the God's Knights. Sometimes a good scene is just a good scene based on what's actually happening within the context of that moment in itself, not how it connects to lore pieces down the line. Anyway. So I'll be disappointed if that's revealed. I'm like, I'd be reading imagine going back to chapter 1 and reading it, and instead of just getting like this pure kind-hearted moment of like Shanks saving Luffy as a child and inspiring him with like what an ideal moment of sacrifice that is, it's like I'd be reading and I'm like, okay, so this is where Shanks is going to lose the abyss tattoo from Emu to separate him from the god of the world and everything like that. And then this way Shanks is like now able to I don't know what the fuck, like stay outside of Emu's influence or whatever, and like what the fuck, like that's what I'd be reading when I'm reading fucking chapter 1 of the story. I don't want to be thinking about that shit when I'm reading the first chapter. Anyway, I don't know why I'm ranting about this, but I think I'm just annoyed by people saying that this is like a moment of genius by Oda. It's not, because it's just like it's just like we know he didn't plan it in the first place, so it can't be a moment of genius because it's just retroactively trying to fit something in. And 2, it's devaluing the actual emotion of what makes that scene tick. Continuing on. Will of Jade, thanks for the 5. Reverend, thanks for the 5. At this point, Harold is best candidate for Man Marked by Flames. Based on Shiryu, could work for government, black ship, old enough to know the lore. But Harold's dead. So how does that make sense? Also, let's get stream likes up to 150 real quick. Could work for the government is a great point, though. Great point. And we don't know his ability, so like that Whirlpool ability might follow. Robuske, thanks for the 2. Moj, have you seen Vinland Saga's ending in July? Yeah, that's curious. I've lost interest in Vinland Saga after the... I thought Vinland Saga was shaping up to actually... I've said this before. I truly loved Vinland Saga up to the end of the farm arc. Because there was a point that I was literally like, this is... And this is the first time I've thought this. I was like, this could replace One Piece for me as my favorite series by the time I finished the farm arc. I loved it that much. And then I read the next arc, and the next arc is just so comically bad and just like turns into such a generic garbage shonen, which would be fine if not for the fact that the next arc also just shits on a lot of Thorfinn's previous development just for the sake of creating more conflict. So all of that just kind of ruined Vinland Saga in my mind for me. And it made me not want to read I started the final arc reading a little bit, but I just couldn't get the bad taste out of my mouth. I was like, why should I put any stock in like the themes and messaging and character writing of the story at this point when it's willing to like just trample all over it just to do some generic shit. I felt like the story had lost a lot of its original weight for me based on a lot of like it tramples on so many of its themes and makes a joke out of so many of its themes, and says so little in the Baltic Sea War arc and everything, and becomes so silly shonen-y. And worst of all, it shits on Thorfinn's character, and it shits on Thorfinn's character multiple times. And ruins a lot of it basically says a lot of the development that you thought already happened for Thorfinn, it didn't actually happen. There's no reason to ever do that for when you've completed a really good character arc. Anyway, Bayanor, thanks a lot. I really love what Oda is doing with Harold. It's not just a great character arc from asshole to wise sage king. Adding world government elements to the mix makes him even more interesting. I agree. I think the further that we go in One Piece, it's kind of like the more that like... Now we're at a point where like the good backstories that we get also tie into the broader lore of the story. So it's not just like there was a time in One Piece when like the story was simple, like you would just read Chopper and Hirulik's backstory and it has no connection to broader lore or anything like that, but you're just enjoying the story for what it is, right? But the story has reached a point where like we're so invested in the grander story of One Piece that now when Oda's doing these important character flashbacks, it feels good when it's also mixed in with fitting in pieces into place as to the broader lore of One Piece, right? So I will love watching Harold's character arc, I'm sure, but I will also love the fact that it's going to tell us a lot about what the world used to be like, world government information, maybe his meeting with Shanks, things like that. Nidoria, thanks for the 5. Second time this arc where Zoro made an interesting comment about Shanks. Luffy really putting the crew at risk for some Shanks crumbs, and Zoro sees it. I don't know if that's going to turn into like an actual significant point of contention or plot point. I will say one random thing though, which is that I am glad that Gaban called out Zoro, because this is the first time that Zoro has been like critiqued in any way as a character in all of post time skip, right? I don't count villains like talking shit because that's just villains, right? But like Zoro is so often the one like talking shit to others on the crew, and like this wasn't the case pre-time skip. Like pre-time skip, it felt like Zoro was still treated as a flawed character who had to learn and gain lessons and things like that, right? Like fucking like 50 chapters in, he's getting that whole lesson from Mihawk, right? But post-time skip, it feels like so often Zoro's the one preaching and talking down and being like from the very beginning, like, Luffy, you need to get more serious for the New World. That's fair, or whatever. But then the shit he's saying about, like, why are you going after Sanji for whole cake, yada yada, somewhat unfair, right? That's what he's saying in Zo. And then, like, shitting on Luffy for, like, being sad about Vegapunk. And Zoro fans eating it up and being like, yeah, Zoro's telling Luffy what it takes to be a Yonko. It's like, motherfucker, what about you? Look at you. What were you doing in Egghead? Huff huff with the fucking Lucci? While Luffy had to fight fucking Kizaru and fight 5 Gorosei at the same time? And, like, you're trying to critique him about being a Yonko? Like, what? Like, where the fuck do you get off? Like, go learn some future sight. Go learn what Conqueror's Haki is. Learn something, right? Like, that was, like, I think I got sick of the character being written, because one of my favorite scenes in the story is Zoro telling Luffy at the end of Enies Lobby what he needs to do better as a captain, right? That's one of the best scenes in One Piece, right? But that almost becomes devalued when it sort of just turns into, like Zoro just turning into the guy post-time skip where, like, every couple arcs he, like, shits on Luffy being a captain, even though Luffy's not actually doing anything wrong in most of those moments. And it's like, the scenes are never nearly as important or meaningful as what happened with Usopp. Like, with the Usopp scene, like, Zoro's advice throughout Enies Lobby was just such peak vice captain shit. Like, all throughout Water 7 Enies Lobby. Like, when Luffy had his first scrap with Usopp in the first place, right? And Luffy was talking about how it's very heavy. Zoro was explaining that's what being a captain is. That's the burden that you have to carry, etc. When they're trying to figure out what should they do about Robin, right? Luffy, Zoro, and Nami trying to figure out what to do about Robin. Zoro explains that, like, we need to be decisive. We need to figure out, is she friend or foe, right? When they're all traveling through Enies Lobby, and Usopp's falling behind, Zoro's giving the speech about, like, we need to let him be because we've all progressed over the course of this journey and become a lot stronger, and we need to all trust each other, that we're not just going to go down that easily. Usopp's going to survive. Let's have faith in each other or whatever, right? And the climax of Enies Lobby, like, while Luffy's fighting Lucci, Zoro's the one who's basically dictating the rest of the crew. Our job is to stand firm here, fight, hold off the Buster Call till Luffy's ready or whatever. And then finally at the end of the arc, Zoro's giving that breakdown to, like, he had so much trust in Luffy, but he's also telling Luffy that you need to act better as a captain if we're going to stay together for the rest of the journey, right? Like, it's just perfect vice captain stuff. It's never really preachy, it's always warranted, and it's always built on the actual dramatic events of the story. But then post-time skip, it's just like fucking just being a dick almost for the sake of being a dick, and it doesn't feel like it's coming from, like, a place of like love and empathy always. It's just like, oh, Luffy's crying over there about Vegapunk. What a little bitch or something like that. Like, what the fuck? So I'm happy that someone finally called out Zoro, which is like, listen, Luffy's been a really fucking good captain. He's reached Yonko level in like 2 months or whatever the fuck. What are you doing, man? Like, what? You don't even know what the fuck, like, you don't even know you have Conqueror's Haki. Like, what are you doing? I'm happy that Zoro finally got, like, a character finally, like, talked down to him in a post-time skip in a way that he actually had to accept that criticism. Because there's no fucking reason that, like, 80-year-old Scopper Gaban, Roger's number 3 dude, is more effective at using Conqueror's Haki and fucking Future Sight than Zoro, who is currently, should be basically hitting his prime right now, right? Like, I'm glad that scene happened. I think I think I needed someone to finally talk to Zoro in that way. And I love Zoro as a character, but not if he's just going to be written as an asshole all the time who shit talks other characters and then goes on to go huff huff for 20 chapters against a dude that is hey, Harley, against a dude like Rob Lucci, while Luffy's having to like basically carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, right? I'm happy about that. I hope that opens things up for him to actually have to push himself to get stronger and improve over the course of the arc. But that was much needed. That was a great moment. Let's get stream likes up to 200 real quick. Continuing on. Suhas SP, thanks for the 5. What do you think about the silent panel where it seems like Gaban said something to Sanji when they were interrupted by Loki and Hajruden? So there's Oda is going to address the Sanji Haki situation. It's interesting that it does not seem like Gaban was suggesting that Sanji has Conqueror's Haki, because he said there's one other member of your crew that I need to see Viz, but he was pointing out Zoro has it. He wasn't really saying Sanji has it, but then the fact that Oda hid what Gaban said to Sanji means that, like, maybe Gaban was saying that Sanji might. I don't even know what the conversation would be. I don't know what Gaban could be telling Sanji right there if he doesn't already sense that Sanji has Conqueror's Haki. Maybe he's telling Sanji how Sanji could learn to tap into it if Sanji has it, but ultimately comes down to whether Sanji has it in him himself. Capital Lunar, thanks for the 10. Not gonna lie, Loki was my last pick for Strahd, but the more I thought about it, the more I wouldn't mind him in. If Loki joins, it would just shake up the crew in a way that, like, I think it's just too much. I think it's too much. He just seems too strong. He seems like it seems like he'd be fucking closer to Luffy right now in strength than he would be to Zoro and Sanji, based on just how he's been built up, based on how fucking Gaban talks about Loki, right? You know it's not a joke because Gaban knows what he's talking about, right? Like, go back to how Gaban was describing Loki in chapter 1139 and 1140. There is likely a solid gap right now between Loki and Zoro and Sanji, and I don't think that would be good for the crew. I think it'll be, I don't know. Mr. MMF2, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 32 months, man. Yo, Mojussi, do we even have enough Conqueror's Haki users for all the Gods Knights and Gorosei, or is Oda going to give some randoms Conqueror's Haki? I don't fucking know. I think a few of the Gods Knights are going to go down right here. I do think that the Gorosei are all going to be taken on by characters that will have Conqueror's Haki, and that's a video that I'm saving for later. But I don't know how the other Gods Knights, because there's like 6 other Gods Knights that need to be dealt with. I'm like, who the fuck else? How many characters can do this shit? I don't know about giving some randoms Conqueror Haki, but maybe it's fucking characters that are... Maybe it's some fucking side characters that we've all been waiting on to see in action. Like, maybe Hancock, maybe Katakuri, maybe, like, Yamato. Maybe those are the characters that are going to get fights against the Gods Knights. I think that'd be really cool. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 5. The Strahd should learn Haki, and the only reason I didn't have an issue with all of them not having Haki is because most of the fights didn't call for it. Yeah, I do think... Sorry, my neck's hurting a little bit. I do think at this point it's becoming more and more important. But it's only important if the Strahds have to fight Gods Knights and Gorosei, right? Like, if they're fighting Blackbeard Pirates, it doesn't fucking matter. But I don't know how all the Strahds would catch up. Because, like, even Luffy and Zoro are not dealing damage right now. So I feel like, I don't know, I can't imagine all the Strahds catching up enough in Haki just like that to be able to do that. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 2. Did Gaban kill your permanent infusion theory? I don't know. Because so I actually put this up on Twitter recently because I was genuinely uncertain. Is Gaban saying that Luffy wasn't using Conqueror's Haki in his fights so far? Or is Gaban saying that Luffy needs to use his Conqueror's Haki differently? If it's B, that Luffy needs to use his Conqueror's Haki differently, then permanent infusion theory is still very much alive. In fact, that could be the answer. That could be what Gaban's implying, which is that there's another application of Conqueror's Haki that you need to be doing, and the answer would be basically permanently leaving behind Conqueror's Haki, like we saw with the Knot, like we can assume is the case with Black Blades, like might be the answer for Poneglyphs, right? But if Gaban was just basically implying that Luffy hasn't been using Conqueror's coding for his fights against the Gods Knights and stuff like that, then the theory is kind of dead. Because then it's just like, okay, so the answer is just Conqueror's Haki. But then it's just bizarre why Luffy wasn't using Conqueror's Haki for those fights. Behanor, thanks a lot. Do you think the flashback will give us insight into Shanks during his time in Marijua? Maybe even more of the rest of the Gods Knights and how they function. So we can all tell at this point Shanks is going to be very, very important to the Elbaf arc, right? There's too many references. He's going to be important. I don't know if he'll show up in what capacity at the very end, at the climax, whatever. It's hard to say, but we know Shanks is going to be very important. I think that we will get a glimpse of Harold and Shanks' meeting. I think that that will happen, because I think that might be more important to Harold's story than it is to Shanks's. But I think we'll also be getting a Shanks flashback by the end of this arc as well. So that'll be a separate flashback. Also, big question. First, let's get the streamlights up to 200 because we're almost there. Big question. Does this change? Because I asked this before. Do we think that this is the final battle that's happening now or not? And one of the things I was holding out on was like, well, we need the Loki flashback and the Loki character writing. That seems like it might be happening right now. Does this change anything for you guys? Do you feel like we might be heading into the final battle after this? Let me ask. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. In Japanese, Gaban just says more than one conquers Haki user. Thank you, Gaban. Or not Gaban. Thank you, Akash. Okay, so that establishes that Sanji could have it. That's really, really fucking big. I think that that shifts me to a more than 50% chance of Sanji having conquers Haki. I don't know. Oda's being a tease here. Hold on. Is this going to be the final battle? Is this going to be the final battle or not? Oh my god, why's the fucking stream lagging like this? Sorry, 1 second, guys. Sorry, doing poll again. Let's get the stream lights up to 200 real quick, because we're almost there. Rihanna's versus Sanji and Usopp have conquerors. Yeah, I definitely think Sanji and Usopp could both have conquerors. Is this going to be the final battle? Yes. No. This gave more of a final battle feel. Okay. Okay. Let me move this along a little faster. Let's get the streamlights up to 200 real quick. Oh my god. I do think the flashback could give us more insight on the God's Knights and how they function. We could possibly even see the gods. I don't know if the God's Knight that stole the fruit, assuming it's a God's Knight, is a new one or not. It might even be fucking for Garland Garling. Okay, so people are still, it's 50-ish, 50-50. People are still leaning a bit more towards it not being the final battle. I think that's exciting. We are going into a fight where we don't know what's going to happen. Lamin, thanks for the 2. Luffy has marked Loki. He has decided. He's excited. I mean, I've talked about this at length already. I don't necessarily think that Loki is joining. I think the fact that Luffy marked him this early before any of the stories really happened between Luffy and Loki almost suggests that it's less likely, because generally with all the Straw Hats, we get the story first, and then at the end, Luffy's basically like, at this point, the stories, our stories have intertwined, I want you on my crew, etc. This almost suggests to me that something's going to happen that stops Loki from being an option to join the crew. Black Lightning, thanks for the 10. Sanji's growth pre- and post-time skip has never been Haki related. It's the final saga, and he ain't got any kind of advanced Haki. All his biggest power-ups have involved his genes. Yeah, Black Lightning, so that's one thing that I also low-key somewhat, like, I think it would be cool if Sanji gets Conqueror's Haki, but it's also just, Oda hasn't really been writing Sanji to develop in terms of Haki, and Oda easily could have. This whole Warrior of Signs concept is something that's very late game that Oda included, that almost seems like a workaround instead of giving Sanji Haki to have Sanji keep getting stronger. So watch out for this Tuesday's video. It's going to be a very in-depth breakdown of everything as far as I see it. But just watch out for this Tuesday's video. Bane, thanks for the 2. Loki aids Luffy like Lil Oars aided Whitebeard. Lil Oars Jr. was fucking ass compared to what we expect of Loki. Loki as a character is so strong that he would immediately be the strongest ally that Luffy has, like above a Yamato, a Marco, etc. I think we can assume the way that Loki's been built up. He's too strong to the point that, like, I just don't think it would make sense for Loki joining the crew. And even as an ally, it just seems kind of absurd. Like, Loki is, in terms of strength, I imagine Loki is a lot closer to Yonko-type character than he is to, like, a Sabo or a Yamato or a Law or a Marco. Does that make sense? Dick so small, it pissed on my balls. Thanks for the 10. 100% Elbaf's balance between its warrior traditions and diplomacy will be symbolized by Loki, ancient giant blood, and Hadrudin, foreigner's blood, becoming co-kings and co-captains like Harold wanted. Interesting, but Hadrudin, the tricky thing though, that's an interesting concept. The tricky thing is that Hadrudin is also not pro-peace and diplomacy. He doesn't really represent that side of Elbaf. If you go back to Big Mom's backstory, right? Go back to Big Mom's backstory. That's where we first see Hadrudin as a child. Hadrudin is basically this unruly, wild, violent child who wants to be a warrior, and it's the elders of Elbaf who are like, oh, little Hadrudin, like, maybe put the sword down. You're being too much or whatever. Like, Hadrudin had the same sort of warrior type desires and ambitions as old Elbaf, right? That's why Hadrudin then went and made the new giant warrior pirates. He's trying to bring that era back, right? Hadrudin wants to be a warrior. He wants to fight. He thinks he's strong. He wants to like be that dude. He's just not that guy. Loki's that guy. So I don't think it really it would make sense to me if Hadrudin was this sort of peaceful figure, but he's not. He literally started the new version of the giant warrior pirates. He wants to be that warrior figure. He wants to be the warrior king of Elbaf. He just isn't though. It's an interesting concept, though. Ron Azor, thanks for the 5. Anyone else not like Oda basically confirming the theory that Shanks gave up his arm to get rid of the Abyss Mark takes away from his arm moment. But I don't think Oda confirmed that because he could have just gotten rid of the Abyss Mark anyway. He could always get rid of his arm. He could always. I think maybe we find out some specific rules about the Abyss, but the rules would have to be so fucking specific. It would have to be something like, you can't cut it off. You can't cut your arm off yourself. You can't have somebody else do it for you. So Shanks couldn't just like ask Ben Beckman to do it. You can only do it on accident or something like that. I guess. You can only do it on accident. I don't even know what that means then, though. Like, was it going through Shanks' mind at all that he was going to lose his arm when he reached for Luffy? Or when he tried to save Luffy? Was it just his subconscious that's like, take this arm, not this arm? I don't know. Bunfagum, thanks for the 14. Hey, Morge, it seems like Zoro set up for a moment of leadership. Now he has to consciously embrace his identity as a conqueror. With all the talk of him not supporting Luffy, he must step up. I do hope that this sets up for some great character writing for Zoro. He has desperately needed some fucking character writing since pre-time skip. Pre-time skip, Zoro's character writing is consistently really fucking good. Post-time skip, it's just non-existent. So I'm really excited for that, at least potentially what that could be for him. I don't know if that means leadership necessarily, but there's something, like, I like that at least starts with him being humbled a little bit. I hope that that leads to something for him as a character in terms of recognizing responsibility or something like that. I would love if it leads to some leadership stuff. Young Brib B, thank you for the 20. Holy shit, man. Thank you. Hey, Morge, if Loki really does join the Straw, does it confirm that Aokiji will be a permanent member of the Blackbeard crew just to balance them both out? Also, do you think there's any chance Loki's a D? Oh, there's definitely a chance Loki's a D. As for the Aokiji matchup, that's a really exciting possibility. Loki versus Aokiji, I think that would be a really cool fight. Interestingly, if Loki beat Aokiji without it taking 10 days, that means he's stronger than Akainu, right? Because Akainu, it took him 10 days to beat Aokiji. If Loki does it in anything less than that, 9 days, 8 days, dare I say 1 day, he's a lot stronger than Akainu, right? That'd be kind of crazy. That's interesting. I never thought about that. Loki versus Aokiji. I don't know if that's going to be the case because, like, Aokiji was one of the... Hey, Harley, Casey, no. Aokiji's been written to have his sort of own goal in his own story. I guess Loki is too. But Aokiji was one of the 12 characters in Vegapunk's speech, so I just feel like him legitimately just being one of Blackbeard's thugs at the end of the day just seems too small of a role for him, even if it is to give a cool fight to Loki. I'm going to be very skeptical of the idea of Loki for Nakama in general. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 5. Shanks is the child of prophecy, while Loki's birth was marked as a curse. Great point of comparison. That's a great point of comparison. I forgot that Loki's birth was literally viewed as like a cursed day. Also, let's get the streamlights up to 250 real quick. Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. This parallels Luffy since he seems to be set up to acknowledge his role as Nika, while Zoro needs to embrace who he is as a conqueror and leader. I like that, because that is kind of the storyline that's been shaping up for Luffy this arc, which is just like, he even tells Yaro, like, this Nika stuff has nothing to do with me, but Elbaf in general, it's so much about the Nika lore, and like, hyping up what the significance of Nika is, what's Nika supposed to do, what's his role in the grander scheme of things, what is the Dawn. And now that Luffy's finally going to meet Imu, who is basically like the natural, and Nika is the natural enemy of Imu, I think maybe Elbaf is going to be about Luffy realizing like what he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do, and maybe that will parallel Zoro. Pascal Lapointe, thanks for the 2. Do you think Imu book is the treasure Dofi knows about? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating the book, but I feel like the book might just be a product of like Imu's own devil fruit abilities, and he just creates the book as a way to do things. I don't know. Because I think Imu has like some sort of like the devil fruit, and I think the book is just something he can manifest to cast spells, kind of like how people would imagine a devil type figure can do. Drink water, Peg D's leg. Thanks for the 5. Sanji awakening conquers Haki is fine, but if he's able to code it and use it to Gaban's level in this arc, it'd be disrespect to Luffy and Zoro's training. But Zoro did that in, I don't know to Gaban's level, but Zoro kind of like fast forwarded that process really fast in Wano, right? Because Zoro both like the first time Zoro, even to our knowledge, like we the viewer, Luffy's probably been sensing it for a while, but the first time Zoro even was shown like releasing Conqueror's Haki in general was in Wano during the King fight, like explicitly shown. I still believe Ashura is also Conqueror's Haki, but I mean Kaido recognized it, so that was established, right, that Conqueror's Haki was involved there. But basically all in the same arc, we saw Zoro releasing Conqueror's Haki for the first time and using Conqueror's Haki coding. Right, all in the same like span of Wano, right? And in fact, for being really specific, Zoro, as far as we know, wasn't using like Ryo and stuff in previous arcs, but in Wano, it's shown that he can use Ryo, whether that be thanks to Enma pulling out his Haki or not, we don't know, but it's shown that he's like all one battle, right? The rooftop battle, right? Zoro's using Ryo against Kaido on the rooftop. Then goes downstairs, he's like letting out Conqueror's Haki, right? Knocking out fodder for the first time. And then he's using Conqueror's coding. It's all in one thing. I personally thought that was all really fast considering Luffy had to do so much shit. Like Luffy had to do all of this. Luffy had been using Conqueror's Haki for like a while, for years now, right? The Marineford whole saga was when he started to awaken it. He spent 2 years like training it and getting it down. Then he spent like weeks in Udon practicing and learning how to use Ryo and stuff. And then finally during the Kaido battle, he put those two things together and he's able to put Conqueror's Haki and release that with Ryo, right? Like, and do Conqueror's Haki coding. Harley, Casey, no. Right? Like that was a whole process. Whereas with Zoro, it's just like, okay, now it's all just going to happen in the Onigashima battle. Now he's just doing everything all in one battle, right? Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. So the Shanks arm retcon is just going to be next Saul survival to your disappointing retcon. I mean, I don't know if these are retcons necessarily. Like, is it changing anything? I know a retcon was like in Naruto, it was revealed that Gaara's thing was Gaara's monster thing was a tailed beast. That was a retcon because that wasn't the case earlier. But coming up with something to fit... Sorry, Mazur. Oda's not changing past information, right? He's not changing past information here, but he is retroactively trying to connect something. Same with the Saul thing. I don't think it was... I think Oda probably always planned on Saul surviving. He just made it really fucking stupid the way that he he fucking milked it. Like, just don't milk the death then, right? Don't milk the death then if you're planning on bringing the character back because you know you're cheating, right? You know you're cheating the reader. And also don't explicitly establish that you can't thaw out bodies with heat because the body will crack. Like Oda literally established that in Long Ring Longland when Robin was frozen. It's specifically stated you cannot thaw out frozen bodies with heat or else they will crack. And then with Saul, so many readers fucking defend it with like, well, the island was on fire, so of course Saul thawed out. It's like, if that fucking means Saul should be fucking cracked into a million pieces is what it should mean, because it would have fucking established this like not 80 chapters ago. But I think that's the one retcon maybe, if Oda retconned anything with Saul's survival, it's that like apparently in One Piece heat no longer is a problem for thawing out bodies. But anyway, continuing on. Marcel Beans, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months, man. Thanks for the long time support. Mr. Morge, I sadly had to cancel my Pirate King subscription because of financial reasons, so this is my last message as a member, but I will still watch your videos and stream and donate when I can. Marcel Beans, don't you worry. Thank you so much for the long time support, man. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate it, man. You've been a very consistent, like, poster in the Pirate King podcast, like, submission stuff. So I know I think every single, or most months, I think I pretty much always answer one of your questions. So, like, I don't know. It's been, I've much appreciated your contributions, I guess, to the podcast in the first place. And in general, thank you for the long time support of me and the channel, man. Yeah, I'm sorry your financial situation changed, but hopefully it bounces back. And don't worry about, like, as long as you enjoy the videos and as long as you enjoy watching the streams and stuff, that's all that matters. But take care of yourself first, obviously, and, like, just take care of your finances and all of that stuff. It's seriously all good, man. And I really do appreciate the long time support. Yeah, 17 months, man. Thank you very, very much. And thanks for giving me a heads up, too. But yeah, I hope I still see you in streams and everything like that, man. I do appreciate it. And yeah, appreciate it, man. JWP, thank you for the 5. This chapter is so peak, so many different things to talk about. Yeah, it's actually fucking insane. Like, I don't even know where to start, because there's so many, like, you could talk about Loki, you can talk about Harold, you can talk about what happened with the fruit. Like, people aren't really talking about the fruit as much. Was it the Nika fruit that got stolen? If that's the case, has Loki actually eaten a fruit, or what's the deal there? Loki must have eaten some fruit, right? What's the deal with Shanks? What's the deal with Sanji and Conqueror's Haki? What's Zoro's potential storyline here? There's so much shit. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. It's possible Shanks was holding on to the mark for a purpose he deemed no longer necessary once he put his faith in Luffy becoming Joy Boy. I guess he was holding on to the mark for a purpose he no longer... But why was it that the moment that Luffy was drowning that he deemed it no longer necessary? If you remember, Shanks was supposed to just set sail and leave that day, right? So what was the point in which he decided... When did this happen? When did this... Like, he saw Luffy drowning and was like, I now put my faith in him as Joy Boy. It was implied that Shanks had already... So Luffy said Luffy ate the Nika fruit, right? So that's what would have given Shanks faith in Luffy. And 2, Luffy said something that reminded Shanks of what Roger once said, right? The same dream. So those were the 2 factors that really seemed to make Shanks believe that Luffy is set to be special, right? I wonder if Luffy said his dream before or after eating the fruit, before or after the Higuma incident. I don't know. Okay, we need more context, but it's also just like... It's just so, the Sea King is just so irrelevant to Shanks choosing to have the mark or not, right? So literally he's swimming towards Luffy. In that moment he's thinking, you know what, right now would be an okay time to get rid of the mark. I don't even know. It doesn't even make any fucking sense, actually, because... if he's decided, even if in that moment he's deciding that he wants to give up his arm, he's like, you know what, I'm going to bet on Luffy, I'm okay with giving up my arm, right? Let's say that's what Shanks decided in that moment. There is still zero reason for Shanks to let the Sea King be the method of how Shanks loses his arm. Because you saw it fucking traumatized Luffy. Luffy was fucking in tears and bawling, and it fucking stuck with him. He's like, Shanks, your arm. And, like, that's something that stuck with Luffy for the rest of his life. Like, he's telling Sanji, like, that's not why Zeph made that sacrifice for you, losing his leg and everything like that. Like, Luffy feels so indebted to Shanks over that arm incident, right? Even if Shanks in that moment was like, I'm okay losing the arm to save Luffy, or I'm okay losing the arm because Luffy's going to be the next Joy Boy or whatever, that's still zero reason. There's still no reason that Shanks in that moment should have picked right then to give up the arm for Luffy. Because even if you've made that decision, fucking save Luffy from the Sea King. You have Haki. You can save yourself. You'll be fine, right? You don't need to lose the arm right then. And then when you're fucking sailed off and left the kid, then you can have Ben Beckman or whoever cut off your arm. There's no reason to be like, I've made the decision. Also, I specifically want to lose my arm in this moment by having a Sea King bite it off with 8-year-old Luffy watching it happen. That's how I want, and leaving Luffy with a shit ton of guilt and debt or whatever. That's the mark I want to leave on him or whatever. It just makes it's not going to be a genius retcon if that's how it happens, right? Unless, I think, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but I think Oda has to think of something very, very specific for me to not think that it would be insanely stupid to say that, like, the arm situation really was brilliantly thought out or something and retroactively fit in. Because he could lose the arm however. He could always lose the arm. He can lose it however method he wants. TomTom says Shanks traumatizing his 7-year-old for shits and giggles. New X7 says to let Luffy understand the dangers of being a pirate in the sea. Don't go to sea if you're not willing to bet your life on it. Luffy already fucking understands. This is just bending over backwards, man. Luffy already understood that the moment the Higuma incident all happened. The moment the Sea King was coming after. Like, Luffy understood that whole situation already very clearly, right? He understood that whole situation very, very, very clearly, right? It was fully understood. Luffy was not sitting there about to die from Higuma and with a giant fucking Sea King bearing down on him and being like, I can't believe the sea is so calm and peaceful. What a wonderfully safe place for me to be. He got the message. He understood. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 10. What if Shanks wanted his immortality but gave it up for Luffy? If he got the mark to gain immortality buff to fight the world government, but then he bet on Luffy to take down the world government. I'm confused though, because doesn't the time out. Did the Sea King have advanced Conqueror's Haki? Why didn't the arm just regenerate? If the arm granted immortality, why didn't the arm regenerate? Why didn't the arm regenerate? I don't get it. Restriker says we need more context to judge it, in my opinion. Yeah. If Shanks had God's Knight's powers that whole time, then why doesn't the arm come back? Oof says maybe being underwater. Oh, I think that could make. Wait, but then how's Shanks able to swim? This is just I don't even know. Nicholas Sealstern, thanks for the 2. Rox came to Elbaf for Harold to join his crew. Oh, that's an interesting possibility, but I think it's more likely that Rox came for that fruit, the fruit that they have locked up. Rohan, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 20 months, man. Morge, have you ever read the Song of Ice and Fire books? I don't know if you're into fiction, but I feel like the universe is right up your alley. They're pretty different from the show, BTW. I've read the first book. Game of Thrones, because I actually read it before a Game of Thrones, right? I read it before I watched the show because I was kind of jumping on the hype train. Like, college had started. I think it was freshman year of college. And most of my friends were already watching the show, so I kind of wanted to jump on the train. But I was kind of adamant that, like, well, it's a fantasy book series. I would like to read the books and then watch the show because that's what I used to do. Like, this was back when I was a reader, right? I used to read a lot of books, a lot of fantasy, right, when I was younger. I definitely don't do that much now. But, like, for anything that would come out, like, let's say The Hunger Games, right? I read The Hunger Games book before I actually watched the movie, okay? Like, that's just what I would generally do, is just a thing, okay? I didn't like going into movies and stuff like that, or TV shows that are based on a fiction, like fantasy source material, without actually reading the source material first. I don't know why. It's just what I did. So I read A Game of Thrones first. I really, really, really liked that book. I really, really enjoyed that book. But then I stopped. I didn't move on to the next book in the series. Was it A Feast for Crows or something? I forget. I didn't move on to the next book because then I did some Wikipedia. Did some Wikipediaing, and I did some not Wikipediaing, but like I read some online whatever that basically explained that like the books get kind of rough around 4 and 5, and it seems like he, like, even already way back when, around that point in time, a lot of people were saying that it's very unlikely that he finishes book 6, or like book 6 is taking forever. And this was like, keep in mind, this was a long while back. Like this would have been maybe it was first, second year of college or something, but already it was kind of like the opinion that we're having to wait a long time for this 6th book. And like book 4 and 5 are not that good. So it just seemed like and the books are very long, right? And so I was like, for me to finally get started watching the show and like watch with my friends and everything, I would need to actually get through all of these books, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really love the first book, but at the same time, I just don't know if I'm gonna like, if it starts to get worse over time, and like I would have to read so many like thousands of pages just to catch up. I basically bit the bullet and just started watching the show. I think I even went with the mentality, I think at first, of like, okay, I'll read the book and like I'm not gonna progress further in the show than I've read. But then you just kind of, that slips, right? Like I finished the first season and then started the second season, then I've already progressed further than I'm in the books. So I think it was really good. I actually own, this here is the Fire and Blood book or whatever. Because I wanted to read out how House of the Dragon basically goes, because I really liked the first 2 seasons, even though a lot of people hate the second season. I liked it. But then I read how much time it's going to take for the next book, the next season to come out, and I was like, that's BS. Then I bought Fire and Blood, and I read that. I don't think I even finished the whole dragons thing though. Actually, I just read a good chunk, so I basically know the gist of what happens. Vinny, thanks for the 8. Morge, I was watching old streams and gotta say, short hair tough. Suits you way more. Also, Pacers in 7. Oh my god, I don't want to talk about the Pacers. But don't worry, the hair is going. It's been determined, the hair is going. Just gotta do it. I think maybe next week. Next week I'll do it. I've been saying that for a bit, but we'll just do it for real. Let's get the stream likes up to 250 real quick. I really fucking hope the Pacers win. I don't know if I can even bring myself to sit down on Sunday evening and watch that finals game, because like, more likely than not, the Thunder will win. More likely than not, the Thunder will win. And, like, more importantly, it's just, I don't know if I want to put myself through that. Like, because I really don't fucking want the Thunder to win. You know what it is? I mentally checked out of, like, caring about the NBA as much once I realized the final is Thunder Pacers, because I just assumed the Thunder are going to win, and that would make me unhappy. So I'm just like, let me just emotionally detach from the NBA so I don't care about this stuff anymore. But these goddamn Pacers keep on, like, reeling me in and making me like believe and care, and I just feel like I'm setting up for heartbreak. So I feel like I'm in a good spot now where like I'm emotionally detached from the NBA, but I will be very happy if the Pacers win. So I'm like, do I just ruin that by like sitting down Sunday evening with like a lot of hope in my heart and watching what is likely going to happen, which is the Thunder beat the shit out of the Pacers, game 7, everything ends, yada yada, and I have to watch fucking like free throw Gilgeous-Alexander be like nominated as the best player in the world for the next year. I don't know if I want to sit through that. I feel like I'm in a good place right now, but it could just be damn exciting. I don't know what I'm gonna do. JWP, thanks for the 10. Harold is definitely Kaido's dad, lol. Also, as someone who has never believed Sanji would have conquered Haki, this is the first time where I now think it'll eventually happen. I'm super excited for both flashbacks too. Yeah, I was a non-Sanji conquers Haki believer. This chapter definitely gave me some level of belief in it. Like, Oda can play it one of 2 ways. I break it down in detail in next Tuesday's video, which is a big retrospective of Zoro and Sanji in general, and what their roles in the story in general are kind of set to be. Kaido's dad, Harold being Kaido's dad, I could definitely imagine that. I think I'm set on hoping that that's the case, but we've been down this route before where we think that something is like, oh, it's just such a perfect setup, and then it turns out to not be the case. I remember there was a whole period of time that people were very confident, like it was one of the most popular theories in One Piece, that Rox was Shanks' dad. And then it turned out to be the total opposite. Shanks is like a fucking Celestial Dragons kid, right? There was a whole period of time that a very popular theory that Katakuri was a child of Kaido and Big Mom. This was before Wano started. By the end of Whole Cake, a lot of people believed that Katakuri was the child of Kaido and Big Mom. It was like, why does this one dude look so much stronger than all the other kids? And just a lot about Katakuri's appearance and everything like that seemed to fit. But then that turned out to be wrong. So yeah, I think Harold being Kaido's father could really, really fit. But at the same time, I'm also just like, it could just be another one of those that seems like fun to fans, but Oda's got something totally different in mind. Um, yeah, I'm really excited for. There's multiple flashbacks coming. Like I think the Harold and Loki flashback could both be happening in one go right now. I think that's possible. And then I think the Shanks flashback is going to be even more exciting, and I think that will happen by the end of Elbaf. Aether, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 27 months, man. Haki was granted at inception of life since all beings pass it down through lineage factor. Certain bloodlines were endowed with conquerors afterwards. Points to a group being made to have conquerors Haki at once. A group being made to have conquerors Haki at once. Certain bloodlines were endowed with conquerors afterwards. I'm a little confused by what you're saying. I see what you're saying, like conquerors Haki users, like it is to some degree a lineage thing. Like all the Monkey D's seem to have it. The Figarlands likely, Roger Ace, things like that. But I don't know if it's like there's a. I don't know what you are. You saying there's some original group that all had conquerors Haki, maybe like the D's or something like that. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know. I don't know if Oda's going to get too technical in terms of like the science behind who is born with a particularly powerful spirit or not. I don't know. I do wonder if it means Conqueror's Haki can be engineered, like Judge engineered Sanji to have Conqueror's Haki. Paul, thanks for the 2. Your thoughts on the calm fruit fan theory? I don't actually know what that is. Calm fruit. What does that mean? I need some explanation. Someone explain in chat, please. I think he's asking if there was a patient 0 for Conqueror's Haki. No, I think that would kind of dilute the concept quite a bit. I don't know if that would be the case. Also, let's get stream likes up to 250 real quick. Dandelion, thanks for being a member for 1 month. Maybe only Sea King beat Regen because Conqueror's Haki Sea King. The Sea King. Okay. Oh, maybe the Sea King beat Regeneration because the Sea King had Conqueror's Haki because it's the Sea King. So that Sea King actually had Conqueror's Haki. That's funny. Angel Rees, thanks for the 5. I feel like this chapter confirmed time dilation Elbaf. Gaban says it's been 3 years since he's seen Shanks, but Shanks says it's been 10 years. So I was thinking that doesn't make sense because even looked at ages and shit for a lot of things during Big Mom's flashback. But now I'm thinking it's possible if Oda has been cheating a little bit with what he talks about with Giants' lifespans. It's possible. If Oda's been cheating with Giants' lifespans in the sense that, like, I don't even know if it's cheating. I guess it's just, like, Oda says that Giants live 3 times as long. No, how does this make sense, though? So time would have to pass slower in Elbaf. Dory and Brogy were definitely fighting out there for 100 years. I don't get it. If time passes slower in Elbaf, right? So, like, outside world time passes. I think it's possible. It's possible. Gaban saying, so, like, is it doubling up on the time situation in the sense that, like, Giants' lifespans are 3 times longer than humans, but then on top of that, they live in a homeland where time passes slower than the outside world. So, like, for them, everything is moving at like, you see what I'm saying? That's almost like double the, like, quadrupling down on that notion that Giants really age very differently than humans, right? Maybe that's also why Gaban chose to stay at Elbaf. No, Gaban chose to stay because his family's there and everything, but I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Like, no, it's just Gaban being an old head. This is Jolly D. Joestar. Yeah, because certain things we know for a fact. We know Dory and Brogy were fighting we're fighting in Little Garden for 100 years, right? They're fighting in Little Garden for 100 years. I don't know. I'll have to do math on all that later. Thank you. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 5. Shanks wanted to kick back with Buggy, while Buggy wanted to chase dreams with Shanks, yet go on to the opposite until Luffy. I'm pretty sure that Shanks and Buggy had a Luffy-Usopp relationship, and, like, Buggy was Shanks' Usopp, right? And if they'd gone on and formed a pirate crew, Buggy would have been the Usopp of the crew. And there's just a lot of parallels in terms of, like, how how Usopp becomes known as, like, a god and all of this stuff and, like, misleads people, and, like, Buggy also does too. Yeah, Buggy is essentially if Usopp just went off on his own and tried to be a pirate by himself. I think I think it's funny. King G, thanks for the 2. Gaban's one of the few who can talk to my goat like that. I would love to see a Buggy and Usopp meeting. King G, thanks for the 2. Gaban's one of the few who can talk to my goat like that. I think this chapter was really cool. I think this chapter probably made a lot of Zoro fans actually like Gaban to some degree because I think, unless they really don't like Gaban talking shit like that, but Gaban kind of, Gaban, essentially it's like a moment that Sanji kind of gets ripped on, right? In the sense that, like, no, Sanji, step aside. Zoro's the one with Conqueror's Haki. So I imagine Zoro fans really like that. But Gaban is talking about the standard that Zoro needs to hit. So it basically, like, it's almost hyping up what Zoro needs to be. And I imagine that Zoro fans probably think that that's somewhat cool in a sense, right? So, like, because I think a lot of Zoro fans have hated Gaban because they view Gaban as just, like, another Sanji. But, like, in this chapter, Sanji essentially got shat on pretty bad because of Gaban, and Zoro got hyped up as being the Conqueror's Haki user. So, like, you know, it's like, oh, well, this second Sanji guy, he's not that bad. He's actually, like, gassing Zoro up while shitting on Sanji. But then at the same time, like, he's setting up for more development for Zoro to get stronger, too. Drink water, peg D's leg. Thanks to the 5. Really, for the love of God, train Boa Hancock on Conqueror's Haki. You're right there and saw what happened to her. Come on. I don't know. That's a good point. I just don't know if, like, Hancock wants to be trained or anything like that. That's funny. Pocket Monster, thanks to the 10. I have a similar job to a UPS/Amazon worker. However, I never went extreme diff with the boxes like Jinbei. Does this mean I scale above him? You do scale above Jinbei. Yeah, you do scale above Jinbei. That's all it takes. Right now, oh man. It's funny that Sanji did mention, like, oh, Jinbei and Zoro surpassing me or whatever. I assume that means he's talking about bounty to some degree. Because there's no way Sanji thinks Jinbei might be stronger than him. Like, Jinbei's tied up there right now, you know? Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. In Japanese, oh yeah, we covered this. Beshoy, hold on. Catching up here. Oh my god. Sorry, I really got to catch up. Let me try. I'm going to be flying now. Hold on. I'm going to be flying. All right? You guys ready? Bishoy Yusuf, thanks for the 5. Luffy's blind curiosity of Shanks might end up hurting him if he runs into Shamrock and thinks it's Shanks. Luffy literally ran into Reiju and thought it was Sanji. So that's very possible. At the same time, I'd like to think Luffy's observation haki should be able to help him discern, but who knows? It's fucking Luffy. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Gaban thought Shanks was going to be Joy Boy. Roger thought it was going to be Ace. No one had Luffy on their list. Luffy ruining people's plans since day 1, LMAO. There is one person who thought that Luffy was going to be Joy Boy, and that's Shanks, and that says a lot. Shanks betted on the New Age. Although, even Shanks didn't think it was going to be Luffy right away. It's not like Shanks met Luffy and was like, here, eat this fruit. The fruit had to choose Luffy. And I like that also, in a sense, Luffy's own actions chose the fruit. I like that essentially the thing that nobody really saw is also what needed to happen. The thing that wasn't necessarily planned, but the fruit knew. The fruit knew what it wanted. JWP, thanks for the 10. Why is Luffy gatekeeping Haki from his crew, LMFAO? 1, he doesn't tell Zoro he has Conqueror's Haki. 2, learn internal destruction like 2 days and could teach but doesn't. Knows how to get future sight but isn't telling anyone. I don't know why he's gatekeeping from his crew. I don't know if like Zoro and Sanji like want to be taught by Luffy like that. I don't know if they want that. I don't know if they want that. To be fair, I think Luffy assumed that Zoro knew Conqueror's Haki based on this interaction, and I think that's all Luffy. And I think part of it is also that I think the point is also that Luffy's crew it doesn't exist for Luffy to like babysit them necessarily. The point is that the crew are supposed to be his pillars of support, right? Like he wants to just be able to trust them to have his back, right? The goal is not for him to be like sitting down and teaching Zoro and Sanji and all the rest like, okay, here's what you guys are supposed to do. It's like you guys had 2 years, right? Like, come on. My fucking brother died, right? Like, I would like to be able to rely on some of you all to just have my back and do the things that I can't do, right? I think that, yes, Luffy could sit down. Like, it makes sense Luffy should be sitting down and teaching Zoro and Sanji. But at the same time, kind of the point is that he shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to. That's on them. That's their responsibility to have been getting stronger, right? Like, if they're saying that we are we are going to help make you Pirate King, and he's trusting them to do that. Like, Luffy has enough on his plate. Like, I just think back to Egghead. Luffy has enough on his plate. Like, when admirals and Gorosei and all this shit show up, he's the one that's got to shoulder all this burden. If they are the Pirate King's crew and they talk that shit up and they say we're gonna make Luffy Pirate King, that's on them. They need to become strong enough to do that. That shouldn't be his job too. So yes, he could do it, but if he's having to sit down to teach them that, then it's like, why is he even running around with these guys in the first place? Yeah, let's fucking bring Loki on. Loki already knows what to do, right? He doesn't need to have his hand held to be taught Haki or whatever the fuck, right? At that point, let's get a new first mate. Let's get a new right and left hand man or whatever, right? Like, if I need to sit down and teach you guys how to do, your, like, learn your alphabet or whatever, why don't I just bring somebody who's actually qualified on board, So I think that kind of, now that I think about it, kind of makes sense. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. Do you think Gaban will be upset when he realizes that the rest of the Yonko crew don't know how to use Haki at all? That would actually be really fucking funny. I mean, I think Gaban might have gotten an idea when he showed up to fight the Gods Knights and saw the entire fucking rest of the Yonko crew literally tied up in a nice, neat little bundle. And he had to save their asses, right? While his son was being walked off a cliff or whatever the fuck, right? So I think Gaban might have an inkling that this Yonko crew may not be exactly the Roger Pirates 2.0 just yet. Gosh, Bandit, thanks for the 2. Shanks was in Marisha for Shamrock and Ginny's wedding. Oh my god. That is fucking terrible, man. Gunner455, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 25 months. Just joined. Not sure if it's been mentioned, but thoughts on Shanks' Armtat and Child of Destiny. Looking forward to the next few videos off of this chapter. So, because this last week's video was kind of a botched video, tomorrow's video is more high effort. It's all about Shanks. So it's not just a standard little chapter review. It's a more Shanks-centric chapter review. It's more of a Shanks sort of Child of Destiny, what does that mean, sort of analysis, and looking at the progression of how he's been written through the story. And then next Tuesday's video, the big one, that's a huge Zoro Sanji breakdown. The Shanks Armtat I've talked about quite a bit. It's very curious, like what did it mean? Was he a God's Knight for some period of time? Some people pointed out that Shanks didn't have that when he was a child, so it must have been after he went to Marijua. Yeah, it's very confusing. I don't buy the idea that Shanks chose to give the arm to the Sea King so that he could get out of having the arm mark, because it just doesn't make any, because he could have just done that regardless. No Sea King was necessary. But let's see future explanations. Kelly Man Super, thanks for the 2. You have to check out the Blackbeard vs. Luffy fan animation. I actually watched that last stream, so I think you can go watch the previous stream and see me reacting to that. Pinna, thanks for the 5. I think the theory is more like he decided in that moment to give up the arm type shit, though I do agree the moment is better with its original intent. Yeah, I think the moment is significantly better with the original intent. Like, in the moment, why is he deciding in that moment to give up the arm? It just doesn't make sense why in that moment, right? Like, what is it about Luffy drowning that makes Shanks decide that, oh, he's the perfect Joy Boy, right? Either he decided Luffy's going to be the next Joy Boy before this, or he decides it after this, maybe whenever Luffy says his true dream or whatever, right? But why in this moment is Shanks like, now's the time to give up my arm? Like, even if he's already mentally decided that he's going to give up his arm for Luffy, or he's going to give up his arm or something like that, because he views Luffy as the next Joy Boy, that doesn't mean that, like, via Sea King is the moment that makes sense to do it, right? Like, just fucking use Haki, stop the Sea King's attack, and then fucking, that way Luffy's not fucking traumatized or whatever, and then you can cut off your arm later. The Water God, thanks to the 5. Maybe then Higuma, after being eaten, transplanted his arm with Shanks, got his mark, and is now a God's Knight. Make a video about this, Morge. Maybe. It's possible. And again, the other part about it is just like, why didn't the arm regenerate? Does anyone have any ideas? Why didn't the arm regenerate? Tala, thanks a lot. Another Sanji character arc on the way. Poor Usopp. I think Usopp is going to get something big. Everything is pointing towards Usopp getting something big. I think all the Straughts are getting their setups first, and then Usopp's being saved for last, I think suggests it's going to be very important. Because at this point, it's beautiful. We've got character setups and character storylines being written for Brook, Robin, Frankie, Zoro, Sanji, I think Luffy's is going to be centered around understanding the Nika fruit because the fruit is becoming very, very important to the Elbaf arc, and there's so much Shanks storytelling going on. So like, there's character setup for Luffy there as well, and just in general, Luffy having to like the Elbaf giants are big on the role of Nika and all of that. So I think Luffy has potential character stuff set up here, and then we've got Usopp, who we already know is going to get some sort of setup. So like 7 out of the 10 Straw Hats have notable setups, story setups here, which is really, really rare for a One Piece arc. That's really cool. Flame, thanks for the 5. What if Sanji needs to truly embrace himself to unlock his Conqueror's Haki? Is that consistent with other Conqueror's Haki users? I have a much more in-depth breakdown of the Sanji Conqueror's Haki situation coming out this Tuesday. It covers Zoro and Sanji. So watch that. Sanji is generally written differently from other Conqueror's Haki users. When I say this, I think people can take offense. It's not to say Sanji isn't brave or that he doesn't have willpower. It's just that there's other elements that go into, like, it's Conqueror's Haki is not that simple. There's a very specific type of writing style Oda tends to approach Conqueror's Haki users with that doesn't really seem to apply to Sanji, but I could see it applying to Sanji. Like, there's hints at it at this point. So let's wait. Let's see. Watch next Tuesday's video, and then I'm interested in seeing what people think after that. Ethan Garn, thanks for the 5. I like the idea that Shanks maybe thought about letting Luffy die and losing his arm right was self-punishment. It might be a bit too much, though. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas going around about that, but, like, I don't even like that because it's just, like, it would be Oda retroactively rewriting Shanks' motivations for that scene, and the scene was already beautiful the way it was, right? Like, because it kind of cheapens the scene where like Oda's just changing retroactively what that scene means for each character, and like like we would know that it's not actually a scene about self-punishment. That's just a scene. That's just an idea that Oda came up with like a decade or something later. Justin Holland, what's up, man? Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 32 months. What if Conqueror's Haki sharing is a very rare and versatile technique that helps keep the allies relevant, like Luffy and the Strats, as long as they know basic Haki at least? Could Nami have Conqueror's Haki? I definitely don't think Nami has Conqueror's Haki. Conqueror's Haki sharing, maybe that's going to be a thing. I would really love if the Strats are able to fight without needing Luffy to lend them some Haki. Because that's just like, there's so many ways for them to each improve, and like some of them could even learn Haki themselves. It just doesn't feel right to me that they need to rely on Luffy's Haki to be able to fight. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 5. I'm not saying it's not possible, though. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 5. If Shanks got a scar from Blackbeard while he still had the mark, doesn't that mean that Blackbeard is able to harm the Holy Knights with his Haki? We don't know if the mark we don't know if Shanks' mark gave him regeneration, because if that's the case, the Sea King also has Conqueror's Haki, right? Because, like, you guys talk about the scar, but the bigger issue is Shanks lost his arm, right? So, like, my assumption would be that Shanks doesn't have regeneration, right? Even with the mark, it didn't give him regeneration. Mango, thanks for the 7. Shanks' Haki definitely grew stronger from his sacrifice, since Oda rewards characters for restricting themselves, as it shows unmatched willpower. I don't want to get into that, because then we're getting to Shanks Mihawk territory. I know where this is heading. I know where that's headed. I don't want to talk about that. Slip, thanks for the 10. In the spread with Mama Carmel and her orphans, look it up, the round kid with sunglasses to her left looks just like Saint Somers. I don't know about that. Let's see. Okay. Other Carmel orphans. I know what you're... I think I even know who you're talking about. Like the sunglasses and everything. I think I know which one. I don't know. I think there's some One Piece designs that sometimes overlap. I don't know about that. It's an interesting possibility. Oscar Cruz, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 30 months, man. Sanji thinking that Jinbei is close to outpacing him is crazy, especially after handling S-Shark. Yeah, I didn't like that. I feel like this chapter, again, there's two ways to look at it. Either this chapter really shit on Sanji quite a bit, and it's unfortunate because it was from Gaban himself. Sorry, my neck is bothering me right now. And Sanji kind of low-key self-roasted by even acknowledging Jinbei whatsoever. Or you think that this chapter is amazing for Sanji because it strongly implies that he will get Conqueror's Haki in the future. I don't know. Dick so small, I pissed on my balls, thanks for the 5. I think he probably just didn't want to worry the villagers by showing up to leave with one arm, but the incident gave him the opportunity to get it done. But you didn't need the opportunity. He could just do it at the ship. He could just do it on the ship. He could just do. You could do it anytime. There's no such thing as an opportunity. You can cut your arm. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Right? But you can cut your arm off right now. You can do it. Right? Like, and we can all do it. Like, there's no such thing as like, damn, if only I had some way to fucking injure myself. You can injure yourself all the time. It's very easy, right? It's not like I need a fucking, what if I ran into a fucking tiger and that bit off my arm? This is the best opportunity. It's like, no, there's no logic to this, right? There's just no logic. There's no way how you spin it. There's no logic to this, right? You don't need an opportunity to lose your arm. You can just do it. You can just do it. Don't you think the villagers might be more worried if he comes back with just, fucking missing an arm from the Sea King than Shanks just waiting till after he left the village and cutting off his arm? I don't know. Basky Cash, thanks for the 5. I think when we find out more about Shanks' arm, it will cause bigger plot holes. I think Oda should have just left it as it was. I don't want to go into, assuming that Oda doesn't know what he's doing. Because, Oda's really, really good at connecting so many things across crazy long periods of time, right? He's phenomenal at that, right? The lore of One Piece is generally very, very, very tight. I don't think there's discrepancies, right? So I don't want to say that. I do think that... I think it's more so because a lot of readers are now trying to canonize the idea that Shanks deliberately lost his arm to the Sea King because that's the only way he could lose the arm. That's what I'm more so arguing with readers that I think that's a stupid angle to take. I like to believe that Oda is not going to go that angle, but this is just what readers are bringing up. This is genius because that's why Shanks had to lose the arm. It's like, no, that is so fucking irrelevant to Shanks losing his arm, right? That's irrelevant, right? The Sea King was not the ace in the hole that was needed for Shanks to somehow get rid of the mark. If it is, if that is the case, Oda's gonna have to bend over backwards to make that somehow make sense, right? And try not to ruin the actual beauty of the scene as it was initially depicted, right? With the motivations that were in the original version of the scene, right? So I'm more so arguing against readers trying to put pieces together here that Oda himself has not yet tried to put into place. So we'll wait and see. Kebs, thanks for the 7. Sanji consistently giving up his dreams/desires, rule him out from being a conqueror. He literally didn't understand Luffy and Zoro's great Embratie. I think it's complicated. I'd suggest waiting for this Tuesday's video because that is something that I specifically talk about in that Tuesday's video. I think people are viewing it as I think Sanji fans view it as too black and white. It's look at this badass panel of Sanji saying, give me a light from NL or something like that. Or look how brave Sanji is. That means he has Conqueror's Haki. It's no, if that was the case, then fucking, every other character in One Piece would have Conqueror's Haki, right? But at the same time, I think some readers might be undermining what Sanji has shown in the story that suggests that he might arguably have that sort of transcendental will that is typical of Conqueror's Haki users. He acts very differently from the rest of them, which is why it's a complicated case. Meek, thanks for the 5. Personal theory for the flashback. Harold was friends at some point with both Rocks and Carmel. No reason why, I just think this is cool. I mean, it's possible. Carmel, well, it would be dirty if he was friends with Carmel, because, Carmel was literally selling off, giant kids into, being enlisted into the military, right? So that'd be really fucking dirty. But definitely I would love to see the Rocks in this flashback if possible. It'd be crazy if we get a Rocks reveal in this flashback. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5. Any Moria theories, returning the Final War? Oda said with Top Marine forward, with a shadow army of legends like Roger and Zebek, DBZ style chaos. I have a very simple Moria theory. It's part of a larger theory. It'll probably come out soon. I have a very simple Moria theory. I think it's a cool theory. Jumbo Dumbo, thanks for the 10. I'll put the video out soon. You'll know it when you see it. Jumbo Dumbo, thanks for the 10. Can we talk about the time dilation in Elbaf? Is it possible Loki is a time Logia passively affecting Elbaf time zone like Ace, Crocodile, and the Admirals, or a Zone mythical model Kronos? That would be one of the sickest Zoan devil fruits ever. The thing is, we know the time fruit already exists. Toki had it. Sorry, fucking shoulder. Toki had it. We know that already exists. So I don't know if Loki's gonna have that. Shit. I don't know if Loki's the cause of that. That would be really insane. But the time dilation thing is just complicated because I swear I looked into the Giants' ages and everything like that and the timeline things, and it seemed like it all added up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like everything made sense. Loki was born 60 years ago, right? 60-something years ago. And then if time dilation's also a thing and Giants age slower, then it just gets very messy. I don't know. Drink water, Pegdy's leg. Thanks for the 5. Like Killingham has his armband crest / mark. Gunko also has it, but she covered it up with her bandage on her left arm, on her left bicep. Okay. I don't know what that means exactly, but that's good to know. Ninja Stewart 115, thanks for the 5. Do you think we'll see Rox's full character design during this arc? I do think we'll see it during this arc. I don't know if we'll see it. The God Valley flash. There's so many question marks. Like, when do we get the God Valley flashback? Harold's flashback. I think Harold's flashback is just very surprising. I didn't know that would even be important. Like, we get Harold's specific flashback. Thought we would get Loki's flashback, but I do think we should get Rox's design because Rox came to Elbaf and like he interacted with Harold and Loki and everything, right? Maybe Oda's still gonna do silhouette stuff and save that for the God Valley flashback, assuming that's a separate flashback. But I think it's very possible. Ender Ayanami, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 33 months, man, and thank you for the long time support, man, and being a regular mainstay in chats and everything like that. Monthly reminder to read Kagurabachi. Here's a short video based on a post that's been living rent-free in my head that has progressively gotten funnier with each chapter. Let's see. Because it's you, Ender Anami, I'm going to watch it. Hold on. Oh, I can't get copyright struck for this. Here, let me share it. Hold on. Can I do this? Yeah. I can't get copyright struck for this. Wait. Let me mute desktop audio. There we go. Oh my god. That's funny. I hope I didn't somehow get copyright struck for that. It's not even YouTube, right? So I should be fine. Man, I get copyright struck for all sorts of shit. Okay, continuing on. Monte, thanks for the 5. 14 years ago, Gaban lacks the scar next to his left eye. Might be relevant. How did he get it if it wasn't during his time as a Roger pirate? Maybe Loki gave it to him? Because he said that, like, nobody could fucking... Like, Gaban was very concerned about Loki's strength. If you go back and read, like, 1139 and 1140, he was very worried about what would happen if Loki was released. And he said that no one could stop Loki until Shanks did. Jolly D. Joestar, thanks for the 2. Harold, Loki, Brooke, Shanks, and Nuruj flashback. Brooke! Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Brooke could be in this flashback. And Gunko! Oh, that would be so good. So many things could be covered. I don't know if fucking Nuruj is going to be in there, but that would be really good. I didn't even fucking think about that. Fuck, of course, Brooke's fucking 90 years old. That could track with Harold shit. Paul, thanks for the 2. Do you think Rox is Dragon's dad and Luffy's granddad? I think it's a non-zero chance. I think that would be really, really fucking interesting if that turned out to be the case. Like, so I think that'd be one of the coolest late game additions Oda could do for Luffy's character if Rox is Luffy's granddad. That'd be really fucking sick. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. I think I'm most excited to explore different historical eras of One Piece through Harold and Brooke 50 to 100 years ago. It's rarely talked about. Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off what Jolly D. Joestar just said, because I think that period is a little unknown, right? Because we know the Void Century stuff was really important, right? And then we know Roger's era, and then we know even like Rox's era of like 40 years ago, that stuff's very important. But then there's this like vague time period, which is like things happen, right? Like Brooke's story, the giant warrior pirates are captured, right? And that's around the time that, or the giant warrior pirates come to an end, and that's around the time that Big Mom's situation takes off. Right, like, yeah, there's just this era that is kind of unknown. And Shamrock even says that there was a period of time that the warriors of Elbaf basically ruled the New World. So what's very interesting is that the world was, generally speaking, a lot weaker 100 years ago. Because in today's world, Dory and Brogy are like, they don't crack like top 30, right? Dory and Brogy, like they wouldn't be Yonko or anything like that, obviously, right? But in the world of 100 years ago, it was like basically the giant warrior pirates were the strongest pirate crew in existence, is what this chapter implies, right? Like that level was basically made them the terror of the New World. And it was also established, like Shamrock even confirms this. He was like, the New World was once ruled by the warriors of Elbaf, right? So yeah, like 100 years ago, everything was just like the overall level was just way lower. And it makes sense because it's like, that's kind of the point, that things have progressed and like the Gorse are even talking about like how the state of affairs has kind of reached a point where like they can't control everything anymore, and so they need a great cleansing, right? So I like the idea that like Rocks through Roger, like the era of the last 40 years or so has really been like this sort of exceptional era, this once in like 1,000 years sort of conjunction where like just so many strong characters are popping up. Because yeah, you go back 100 years and like fucking I don't know, like Loki, or I mean fucking Harold might have been the strongest non government character or something like that. You know what I mean? Dory and Brogy are each like Frankie level. No, they're not. They're a lot. I still think Dory and Brogy are a lot stronger than readers think, but they're not Yonko level or anything, right? Tom says Dory and Brogy are like Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, it's like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell back in the day. It's like, oh my god, the legends of the game, the most dangerous pirates ever or whatever. And it's like you see what they're actually like, and it's like, all right, so they were getting fucked up by like Jupiter the Sandworm, you know. Paul, thanks for the 2. Do you think Rocks? Oh no, we covered this. Zero, thanks for the 5. So does Gaban have conquerors? If so, is Sanji going to get conquerors until end of story? Yeah, I think Gaban clearly has conquerors from all this. Like, I was still uncertain after the whole Sommers thing, but it did seem like that just because we don't have the best indicators still of conquerors Haki. But I was convinced by the zit lightning thing. But this chapter absolutely confirms it, because Gaban was just explaining to Luffy, like, here's how you damage them. It's with conquerors. Just be better at using it and stuff. If Sanji going to get conquerors until end of story, that's like the big question. Like, that's the big question of the day. Next Tuesday's video goes very in-depth into that. Next Tuesday's video goes very in-depth into that. Just, yeah. Next Tuesday's video is really, really about that. And, I'm still on the fence between both, and I make the argument for... I do a pretty comprehensive breakdown in next Tuesday's video, so just watch out for that. It's more comprehensive than what I can say here. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. Luffy isn't gatekeeping Haki. Luffy is an idiot who probably couldn't even tell you the time. How could he articulate to anyone such a powerful ability? That's true. He probably couldn't articulate it well, but he could let them know that it's a thing, you know? Like, he could say that, like, I can see the future. That's a thing. He could say that you can use Conqueror's Haki as an attack, you know, the same way that, like, Luffy understands certain things. He literally explained what's happening when he unlocked Conqueror's Haki in Chapter 1010, or Advanced Conqueror's Haki. He said, oh, I realize it now. The same way that I use, like, Ryo for Armament Haki, I can actually use Conqueror's Haki instead, right? He understands that. It's like he's literally articulated that before, right? So he doesn't have to explain how to do it, but he can explain that those things are a thing that can be done, you know? Anthony's crew, thanks for the 5. So Zoro was doing coding in a mission without knowing. Man, once he gets under control, he's going to be a big problem. Admirals, watch out. Yeah, watch out for this Tuesday's video, because I go into Zoro's stuff as well. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick, because we're almost there. Reo Chia, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 32 months, man. Love the chapter. There's so much I want to say about it between Shanks, Zoro, and Harold, but I don't have the time, the gummy bears to say it all. Man, there's just there is so much happening in this chapter. Like, this was one of the most information-packed chapters, even without actually telling us much. It's one of those chapters that says a lot without saying a lot, but opens way more questions than it answers. Just too many different talking points. So again, tomorrow I got a big Shanks video, or I got a Shanks video coming out, and then Tuesday I got a Zoro and Sanji video coming out. Jolly D Joestar, thanks for the 2. Has a God's Night regenerated after the tattoo is off? Has a God's Night regenerated after the tattoo is off? Has a God's Night regenerated after the tattoo is off? I see what you're saying. So you're saying like the weakness is just cutting off the arm, but if that's the case, that's basically like a completely pointless. Like the ability is just ass because you can just take off the arm and they're all good. Also, do the Gorosei have a mark too? Because I'm pretty sure like Saturn got literally torn to shreds at one point and he regenerated, and I think Saturn literally had to regenerate his full arm at some point. If the weakness is just taking off their arm, then why wouldn't Gaban just say that? And why wouldn't Gaban just take off his arm? Why wouldn't Gaban just take off Sommer's arm? It can't just be as simple as like just taking off the tattoo part. Justin Holland, thanks for the 10. Did I mention that in line with the Strats making each other stronger, sharing works both ways? The crew's motivation to learn basic Haki would boost their support for Luffy in fights and in his dreams. Basic Haki would... Yeah, I think the Strats trying to be the best version of themselves to help Luffy is really important. That's something that they've expressed over the course of the New World, but yeah, I think like none of them have actually. I think Frankie, Robin, Brooke, like most of the Strats are like Chopper, Jinbei. They're all just as strong now as they were, like at the start of the time skip. So I do think that it is time for them to start actually making some strides. K Maya, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 17 months. Please watch the video Why is Jinbei on the Strat crew? Not just exceptional shade, but some good analysis too. You won't regret it. If it's shade against Jinbei, I will actually watch this. Why is Jinbei on the Straw Hat crew? Why is Jinbei on the Straw Hat crew? I'm not gonna watch it right now, but okay. What does he even do? Is the thumbnail? That's funny. I'll watch this later. John's the Nomad. Thanks for the 5. The power of love equals conquers Haki. The power of evil equals immortality. Sommer's being the enemy of love is the setup. I don't know. I mean, Garp did say that he had that little quote about the power of love way back when. Gaban is the missionary of love. I don't know. I don't think the power of love is conquers Haki though, because like that doesn't make sense to me. Because Imu has conquers Haki. All 5 Gorosei have conquers Haki. Kaido had conquers Haki. I don't think the power of love is conquers Haki, but I might be wrong. I just don't think that's ever been implied. GK, thanks for the 10. About the arm sacrifice, what if Roger made a similar sacrifice for Shanks, explaining his illness, and when Luffy ate the fruit meant for Shanks, he repeated the cycle? That would be really, really cool. That would be really, really cool. Maybe that's even what made Shanks cry in his final words to Roger. Maybe Shanks asked a question and Roger revealed that or something. Who knows? I think that would be really, really interesting. I like the idea of that cycle, and it adds a lot of depth to Shanks' own story. Hassan LFC, thanks for the 2. Why didn't Mihawk tell Zoro he had conquers? He had a cock. Why didn't Mihawk tell Zoro he had conquers Haki? That's a really good question. I don't know. I really don't know. That's a really good question. Because Zoro came out of the time skip, I feel like, very good at Haki already, right? Like, I feel like Zoro came out of the time skip just as good. Well, I don't want to draw a comparison stuff, but like I feel like he came out very good at armament, but Mihawk hadn't taught him Ryo necessarily. I don't think Zoro already had Ryo. I think using Enma is when Ryo started becoming more of a thing for him, because Enma was helping draw that out for him. Because it's not implied that Zoro's using that in his fight against like Killer or Basil Hawkins or like X Drake or Apu. Like it's just never implied to. Or sorry, before the Onigashima battles, right? Or like Pika or anything like that. I don't think that's implied. I feel like it's once he got Enma that like, because Enma forces you to exude more Haki, right? And that's kind of what Ryo wants you to do. So I don't know why Mihawk didn't necessarily teach. I think that'll be a gray area forever. We won't know exactly. But at the very least, the Conqueror's Haki thing, that is very strange. Maybe it's just like, I don't know. I don't think there's a good answer. Did he show it at... It's arguable. This is total headcanon. I think we need to see more of the Zoro Mihawk flashback or whatever. I assume we'll get a flashback. I think we need to see more of that to get an answer. But here, if I were to headcanon something, I would say this. I think out of all of the training duos that happened, like all of the training setups that happened in the time skip, Zoro and Mihawk's is the most unique setup because Mihawk is not just training Zoro to train Zoro, he is training Zoro to defeat himself, right? He is training the man who's going to defeat himself, right? So I think it's a bit of a different dynamic where at a certain point, and there's like a sort of swordsmanship path that is to be walked to actually earn that title of strongest swordsman. So I feel like if I were to headcanon, I imagine Mihawk wouldn't just give Zoro like literally every tool right off the bat. And like some things, like it's the same way that Mihawk had to actually like learn over the course of like going out to sea and having battles and stuff like that. He had to learn, I assume, Conqueror's Haki, I assume Future Sight. Like he had to learn all of those things, right? I imagine it might feel like a little too hand-holdy if it's just like he gave Zoro all of the basics, right? You got your armament haki down, you know how to coat your blades black and everything like that, right? You know that stuff. You've got observation haki. At that point in time, now Zoro needs to actually go and get stronger through the journey, right? Through actually like forging his way as a swordsman, right? It would just feel almost, I don't know if Mihawk's just gonna like give him everything spoon-fed necessarily. That would be if I headcanon it. Whereas with like Rayleigh, it was like a little bit different. Like Rayleigh also stopped short of teaching Luffy all the haki things, right? Rayleigh said that Luffy completed all of the training in 1.5 years. And Rayleigh then basically was just like, yeah, after this, just work on, like, through battle, you will get your haki blooms and everything. I guess the difference is that Rayleigh at least explained to Luffy how his Conqueror's Haki works, whereas Mihawk didn't even bother explaining to Zoro that he has Conqueror's Haki or how to use it. So that is the big difference there. But again, I think the dynamic might just be a little bit different in the sense that, like, Mihawk might not, like, not even, like, just because he's scared of Zoro surpassing him. He wants Zoro to surpass him, but more of a thing of just, like, Mihawk to Zoro is probably the least, least nurturing sort of environment for teaching, in the sense that like Zoro is also his future enemy and opponent or whatever, and like for Zoro to be a word, like Mihawk has more expectations of what a challenge Zoro is supposed to be or whatever. So like Mihawk from chapter 51 told Zoro like, go forge your way through the world or whatever, become strong and surpass me. So I imagine like Mihawk at some point in the training is probably going to be like certain things, like his demarcation for what he expects Zoro to learn on his own might be different than Rayleigh, who is genuinely just from the bottom of his heart just trying to set up Luffy to be the best version that he can be, you know? So I think there just might be a bit of a distinction there. But that's me headcanoning 100%. The simpler answer, if you were to ask me just like point blank, what do you actually think the answer is? The answer is that I don't think Oda thinks of every little thing. And some things are just more dramatic for the story, like Zoro not knowing he has Conqueror's Haki. Because if Zoro comes out of the time skip just knowing he has Conqueror's Haki, then that takes away a big reveal, right? Like, it's a dramatic reveal that, like, oh, Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. Like, that's a moment. Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. He's awakening Conqueror's Haki during the king fight. Like, that's a big moment, right? If Zoro just comes back out of the time skip and is like, hey, I can do Conqueror's Haki too, then we lose the drama of getting it revealed in real time that Zoro's Conqueror's Haki, you know? Meek, thanks for the 5. Love this chapter. One thing I didn't like is that the Roger Pirates went to Little Garden. I kind of wanted the Straw Pirates to go on their own unique adventure. Yeah, that is kind of funny. And it's also like, I don't know, like, it's just, yeah, everywhere the Straw Pirates have they've also went, hold on, let me send a text real quick. Hold on. Hold on. Let me, 1 second. 1 second. Oh, shit. Oh, what the hell happened to my... How does this happen? Oh my god. I gotta do this shit again. Alright. I literally don't understand why this happens. Okay. What the fuck? Okay. I guess we're good? Alright, we're good. Anyway. Yeah, I wanted the Strats to do unique stuff too, but it is just the way it is. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. Who do you think will fight Charlotte Smoothie? Fucking no. I don't know if she's ever gonna get a fight. I just love how Oda did like an SBS and he was just like, she has this ability. Also, she's strong. It's like, thanks. Glad we got to see that. Alejandro Ramirez, thanks a lot. Yo, Morge, if you can use permanent Haki against enemies, then how about using it on your allies so they can attack the Gods Knights too? Borrowed Haki. That's something that's been mentioned a couple times between this stream and last stream. I imagine it makes sense with that being possible, especially if like Luffy applies it to weapons, like let's say Usopp's weapons or something, or Frankie's weapons, or Brook's sword. I just don't like that idea because I like the idea that the Strats become strong. Like, they're the fucking Pirate King's crew. I like that they become strong enough on their own that they can win the fights that they're supposed to. I don't like that Luffy needs to share his Haki with them for them to be effective in like high level battles. I agree, like it could be symbolic and stuff as well, but I feel like Luffy already does so much heavy lifting in terms of combat, and it didn't used to be this way. Like, if you go back and watch like the CP9 battles or like the Baroque Works battles or whatever, like they're all fighting high level opponents. Like, they're fighting difficult opponents. Like, even like fucking Baroque Works, they're fighting difficult opponents. They're fighting, like, look at how much trouble Luffy himself had fighting just Mr. 3. And then Oda explicitly states that, like, look, Mr. 3, like, the Mr. 4 duo is actually stronger than the Mr. 3 duo, right? And then Mr. 2 obviously above that, Mr. 1 duo, all of that stuff. Like, the Strats, like, Luffy struggled with Mr. 3 a little bit, and then he had to trust his crew to take on all these other subordinates that are even more of a challenge than Mr. 3, right? CP9, right? Like, Bluno was no pushover for Luffy, right? Bluno was no pushover for Luffy. Like, he was after Luffy used Gear 2nd, but, like, base Luffy still had a challenge fighting just Bluno, right? And he ultimately had to trust all of the Strats to individually be able to fight the rest of CP9. Even the weakest members were still not too far off from Bluno in terms of Dairaki. And then obviously Kakujabura way stronger than Bluno, right? Like, and then he had to rely on them to hold off the entire Buster Call at the same time while he was fighting Lucci, like holding off all of those captains and lieutenants and everything. And they were the ones who saved Robin. Like, Thriller Bark, right? Like, the Strats fucking fought Oars with Luffy's powers, right? Just by themselves. And they held out for, like, the majority of the night by themselves while Luffy was struggling to catch Moria. And Luffy really just came in at the end to clutch it out. But, like, that's the good stuff. That's what I really like that. Like, same with the Pacifista, right? Luffy couldn't beat the Pacifista on his own. All the Strats with their own abilities, they were a huge component in taking down that Pacifista. I hate that we've gotten to a point in the story where, like, I read Egghead. There's so much that I love about where we're at in the story. Let me be very clear. But I hate that we've gotten to a point where, like, I read Egghead and, like, it's almost like that meme, which is like the Strats are 100% power, and you see all of them, and then the Strats at 99% power, and it's just Luffy. Because if you look at Egghead, like, Luffy's carrying the combat against, like, I don't even know what the fuck the other Strats did. Like, Frankie helped out against Saturn one moment. Like, some of the Strats, like, spent, like, 2 pages trying to fend off Saturn or something. Like, even getting rid of Mars, that was, like, Luffy set everybody up so that they could get rid of Mars. Luffy had to fucking fight 3 Gorosei with his only backup being Dorian Brogy. Luffy had to take on Kizaru and Saturn at the same time. Like, all this shit while Zoro's going huff with Lucci for 20 chapters. Sanji lets Vegapunk die. Sanji doesn't stop Saturn from taking Bonnie. Sanji gets chomped on by Venus Juro. Like, and then the rest of the Straw Hats are doing jack shit. Jinbei's UPS driving. I don't know, like, it's just like, the fuck are the Straw Hats do? Like, Luffy, like, if you just compile everything that had to happen in that final battle of Egghead, it's pretty much 95% Luffy, and then, like, a couple panels here and there for other Straw Hats. It's kind of insane. So I would really hate if we get to the point where, like, we're in the final war, and the Straw Hats at this point can't even win fights without literally, like, that meme, lend me some Haki. Like, you know that joke about, like, lend me some Haki, Odin? That's what Zoro says, right? Like, that joke about Zoro needing Odin's Haki to win fights using Enma or whatever. That becomes literally the case if the Straw Hats need Luffy to, like, lend us some Haki just so that we can beat, like, these characters that we're supposed to be beating, you know? So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think it would make sense being a thing. I just would not like that at all. Fun reference though, Beelzebub had the manga Beelzebub had towards the end of it, it became a thing where, like, Beel could basically grant powers to all of his followers, right? Like, Beel is a baby Beelzebub or whatever. But really his carrier is, what was his name? Oga? Yeah, Oga can basically grant powers to all of his allies, right? And so the entire ally, like, we know all of these side characters, and we've seen them training and getting stronger using their own abilities and everything like that, and they're really keeping up. And then suddenly one arc just comes along where it's like, okay, well, now they can't actually beat the enemy forces, and they're not strong enough to do it on their own. And so the main character has to grant his power to the rest of them to give them a power up, and then they're able to kick the bad guys' asses. And it's just like, this sucks, because, like, they were all able to keep working and training and getting stronger on their own and winning fights for so many arcs, and then you just hit a point in the story where it's like, nah, fuck it, they just can't do it anymore. Grant us some of your power. Okay, now we're all powered by the main character, and through the main character, it just makes it feel like they're winning thanks to the main character. I just did not enjoy that feeling. In general, Beelzebub, I didn't think that manga finished out the strongest, but that was a moment that I really remember not enjoying. And it became the norm, I think, from then on. I forget. But yeah, I feel like with One Piece, I like the idea that the Straw Hats are there. Like, Luffy already does so much work on his own in terms of his fights and what he has to do, and the burden he has to carry. I like that the idea that, like, the Straw Hats don't need Luffy to be supporting them in their battles. They can support Luffy by winning their battles themselves, allowing Luffy to focus on what matters. I don't know. Oga Tatsumi. Yep. And he's a great main character too. I really like Oga. I can't believe I forgot his name though. Julia Reed, thanks for the 2. Who's the strongest character Yamato can beat? The strongest character Yamato can beat, I would have to look at, like, my top 30 list or whatever. I think the strongest character Yamato can beat is, like, someone like a Sabo, Kid, Law, someone like that. Someone in that range. King, Sabo, Kid, Law, King, someone like that. Marco, I would say maybe Marco. Yeah. Because I personally have Marco above those other guys, just because he has way better feats than all those other characters. And I'd say Zoro is a solid argument. Zoro's a solid argument. Maybe I lean towards Zoro. Like, I know whatever I have my list as, I think I have Zoro one slot above Yamato, but I could easily see Yamato being one slot above Zoro. I might be being biased. I don't know. Let's get the stream lights up to 300 real quick. I missed all your comments, New X7. Hold on, let's see. Let me catch this real quick, and then I'll take a look. Meek, thanks for the 5. Zoro, Sanji, and other giants have 3 minutes to fight the Holy Knight / Emu before Luffy and Loki, etc. arrive. How do you think they'll do in those 3 minutes? Is it established they have 3 minutes? Oh, I forgot. Fucking forgot. I don't know, because I don't know if it's supposed to be the final battle or not. If it's not supposed to be the final battle, then I think they get fucked up somewhat, and then Luffy and Loki arrive, and then they get fucked up. Or maybe just Luffy arrives and he gets fucked up or something. But if it is the final battle, I think they will do well, but they might be stopped at Emu, and then that paves the way for like Luffy and Loki to make a dramatic entrance. So I think they might have a lot of success, and they open the path, and then Emu / Gunko Emu is the final sort of opponent remaining, and then Luffy and Loki make their dramatic entrance, and then they finish the battle. I don't know. Kasha saying Marco, Zoro, Yamato, Ben Beckman. I feel like I hate hyping up Ben Beckman because it just feels like such a just aura farming whatever. It's just so baseless, but at the same time you kind of get the sense that it is based on what Oda might be setting up for Ben Beckman. I have Ben Beckman above. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so I thought that Zoro had surpassed like old Rayleigh and stuff. This was a discussion some time back, right? Like after Wano, it was like, has Zoro surpassed old Rayleigh at this point? I thought Zoro had post Wano. From what I'm seeing in Elbaf so far, I think that old Rayleigh and old Gaban are still slightly, I think they're still above Zoro and Sanji. Just the way they've been, like, because old Gaban is he's still a fucking future sight user, and he has clearly better mastery of his advanced Conqueror's Haki than Zoro, right? Zoro might have more Conqueror's Haki or whatever. Like, I don't know how we quantify the volume or whatever, but like, Gaban is just more skilled as a master of Haki in general overall. And I feel like that probably applies to Rayleigh as well. I mean, just the simple fact that we saw Rayleigh basically stalemating Kizaru for a long time, I don't know if I would confidently say right now that Zoro could just stalemate Kizaru for that period of time at this point, you know? I think I'm less and less confident of that being the case the further the story's gone on, especially seeing Kizaru versus Luffy and all that, you know. So I think right now, right underneath Admiral level, I have like old Rayleigh, and then old Gaban, okay? Right underneath Admiral level. And I think Ben Beckman might be right there with them. I don't know why. I think I'm just like, maybe Ben Beckman's right there. So that's how I kind of view it. And then I think after that, you got like Zoro, Yamato, Marco, Sanji, stuff like that. Throw Sabo in there, Kid Law. It's like a mix where I can argue different characters different ways. I think I just know I've got old Rayleigh, old Gaban, Ben Beckman. Maybe Ben Beckman, because he's probably closer to his prime, might be higher than those two. Maybe I don't know. But I know I got that. I got those three, and then I know I got Zoro and Yamato, and then after that, it's just like a mishmash of like. You could argue it different ways. I don't really care that much. Like Marco, Sabo, Kid Law, whatever, Sanji. You can argue that batch different ways. You can even throw King in there. I personally give the nod to Marco out of that group because he just has by far the best feats and characters hype him up the most. GK, thanks for the 5. Maybe Zoro leaks Conqueror's Haki unconsciously after Ashura in life or death fights, like versus King recently. If that didn't happen around Mihawk, he'd never know. That's also possibly true. I do think that's actually something I talk about in this next Tuesday's video. So that is a big point. I think that's tied to why Zoro doesn't use Ashura more frequently, because Ashura's tied to Conqueror's Haki and Zoro can't really use that on command. I think this also would, to some degree, explain the Lucci situation. Why did Zoro take so long fighting Lucci? When did he start using Conqueror's Haki or whatever? I do think he actually used Conqueror's Haki to finish off Lucci in that final move, but I also think that he couldn't just bring that out whenever he wanted. I think that he got spurred into doing that because of Sanji's taunting. That's my personal feeling. I might be wrong. NewX7 is saying, if the God's Knights are the main enemies of the revolutionaries and they can only be defeated by Conqueror's Haki users, does that mean that revolutionary commanders are conquerors? What do you think about the theory of Dragon and Shanks raiding Marie together? I don't know about Dragon and Shanks raiding Marie together. I feel like maybe that might end up happening, but I don't know if it would be like a joint conscious effort. It might just all happen at once because of the final war. But my thoughts for the Gods Knights, based on how strong they're turning out to be, I think that at this point, I believe that the Gods Knights are likely going to make up enemies for a lot of the other characters, significant side characters in the story, right? So like a Sabo, obviously, but not necessarily Morley Karasu. I'm going to wrap stream in 1 minute, also, by the way. But like if a Hancock is supposed to get a fight, if a Katakuri is supposed to come in and get a fight, like I think there's a lot of side characters that will get their matchup thanks to the Gods Knights, because the Gods Knights are this perfect middle ground, I've realized, in terms of enemies, where it's like they're stronger on average than Yonko crew members, like clearly stronger than a Yonko crew, but they're not like Admiral levels across the board, right? So it's this perfect sort of roster of enemies that all these significant side characters in One Piece can fight and defeat, right? These side characters that were like, okay, well, who's this character? Like, who's a Kobe opponent? Who's a good Kobe opponent, right? Who's a good Yamato opponent, potentially, right? Who's a good Boa Hancock opponent, right? All these characters that are really strong, they're probably not going to be fighting and defeating admirals or Gorosei in the final war, but the Gods Knights are like, they're the perfectly suited level of strength for that, right? Where these guys are way stronger than like Toby Roppo. They're even stronger than like standard Yonko commander level characters. They're not quite admiral level. It's just the perfect level that you would want for all of these significant side characters to get their matchups. So that's where I think that, like, I don't think the Revolutionaries are just going to take out all the Gods Knights by themselves. I think obviously Sabo will, but I think a lot of the other ones will go to other characters. All right, everybody. Armand, thanks a lot. I personally have Sabo and Dragon both. I personally think Sabo and Dragon both have Conquerors Haki. Dragon, definitely. Sabo, I just don't think is the type. There's just never been a single thing that Sabo's done that suggests that he has Conquerors Haki. He's just never had a moment like that. He's never been written like that, either when he was a child, when he was like fucking running with his... running as fast as his little legs could take him away from the Gorosei and stuff like that. There's never been a single moment that suggests that he's like a Conquerors Haki user to me. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. But, we'll have to wait and see. All right, everybody. All right. We are going to call it a day here. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, I will be talking to you all later. Watch out for tomorrow's video. It's about Shanks. And then Tuesday's video, which is about Zoro and Sanji. The Shanks video is much more in-depth than my usual post-chapter videos. This is more of an analysis than anything else. So trying to do some, kind of back-to-back, bigger video essay type videos between Saturday and then Tuesday's obviously the big one, which is about Zoro and Sanji. So watch out for that. Crazy good chapter that we just got. And I'm really excited for obviously 1153. So with that, I will talk to you all later.